Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and never Trump Republican, and I have something special for you today. There is a fellow centrist named Adam Friended who is 50% of the Sitch and Adam show. We actually probably align, I don't know, 80%, 90% on politics, Sitch and Adam and I. However, what's frustrating is that I think that they're a little bit audience captured. They can be ass mad if they want to be ass mad about it, but I think it's true. So Sitch abstained from voting in the last election, despite the lesser of two evils, in my opinion, being obvious. Adam Friended said that he voted for a third party because he didn't want to vote for Trump. I and several liberals bullied him because in the lead up to the election, it felt like he was doing Trump apologia. And he tried to bully me back, I would say unsuccessfully, saying, well, you're working for the Democrats. You're getting paid for the Democrats. You're just saying what you're saying because you're getting paid. And it's like, no, bitch, I say what I say and I get paid. There's no causal link, you know? So anyways, Pisco did a pretty long takedown that I enjoyed, that I think highlights some of the issues that I have with Adam Friended. And so we're going to watch that today together. So let's go ahead and bring it up and let Mr. Pisco take it away for us.
Good. We did a little Sex and the City tour. It was great times. We had Cosmos. And we are both straight.
Isn't today the last Live and Learn with Econoboy? Yes.
Of course, Mickey Mouse has a tail. He's a mouse. You didn't know that he had a tail, though, even though he's a mouse. Well,
sorry, this is more important. I'm going to fast forward Pisco a minute. But Shave Dog Butt says, I'm going to pick up my 1-year sobriety chip from NA today. Things are looking good. Feels okay, man. Congratulations, bro. Congratulations. Just keep it with I'm not an advocate for caffeine, but if you need something to cope and you need caffeine and tobacco to get by, just do that, man. It's better than whatever you were on before.
Plays really, really cool time. So nice to hang out with Josiah. Good for us to hang out before the end of our country. That's housekeeping number 1. Housekeeping number 2. Tomorrow, Monday, we'll do our last Econoboy episode of Live and Learn. And so I would really appreciate for you guys to come to that and to watch it and give Econoboy all of your love. That would be great for you guys to do that.
All right,
show him.
For the sake of content flow, I'm gonna go ahead and say something right now. You guys, it's a dead drama at this point. Econoboy had opinions that I thought were bad in reference to socialism, and I thought that he was being a useful idiot for socialists. This sparked a lot of drama between I and Stephen Bennell II, the streamer known as Destiny, and Live and Learn, a podcast run by Josiah, Hutch, Pisco, and Econoboy. But dude, there is a conversation between Econoboy and Lonerbox after the drama where Econoboy perfectly restates all of my criticism and perfectly states my solution, agrees to it because Lonerbox is the one that's saying it. Like, I don't like to be a sore winner, but if I'm having a conversation with you and you just have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, and then you have a conversation with another person and you know exactly what I'm talking about and you understand my prescription exactly, that's not a me problem. That's you're being defensive unnecessarily, and you're only accepting criticism for people who are more proximately within your political team. So again, I'm not trying to be a sore winner, but if you want to put a capstone in that drama, go watch the conversation between Lonerbox and Econoboy. It's actually everything that I said.
That you are econo sad about his econo step away from online politics. Okay, that's tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Cool. Questions on that? See none. We're gonna move on. Legal stuff. Okay.
Nobody cares, Beast. Go get to it.
For I think being a scumbag, piece of shit. We're going to go through
some
of the backstory here and give you guys my commentary and thoughts on it. And then number 2, I got really pissed off at Ryan Mullally on Twitter just now. And so I'm going to take a little look at a clip from his recent debate with Steven. We're not going to spend too much time on that, but just to show how wrong he is on Trump versus United States, and in a major way. And then finally, there's a little bit of legal news that you guys should know about. It might go to the Supreme Court. It has to do with Trump's continuing efforts to undermine not just the judiciary, but Congress in this recent appropriations battle. The president seemingly wants to take control over all amount of data that comes out about their spending. And that, of course, is a pretty big deal for Congress to be able to see and track how the money it appropriates is actually spent. Pretty big deal. I don't know about you guys, but I think it matters, right? If all you do are write appropriations into law, but you can't actually track how that money is spent, what good is the power to appropriate money? And so we won't spend too much time on that, but just to give you guys a prize of that particular litigation. Okay, let me take a big swig of coffee before we get started.
I'm gonna have Danabo edit all this out, bro.
How you guys doing? I'll take another big swig.
Let's go, Pisco.
Come on in.
I don't care about your habits with Duncan. Start talking shit about Adam Friended. Let's go.
Woke stuff, especially woke stuff and some political things. It's not super hard politics or hard commentary on political happenings. It's more kind of just stunting on individuals, easy targets for these folks. So these guys kind of just pander to their, thanks for the memberships, guys, to their audience from a very I would say the remnants of the pushback to cancel culture and woke culture that existed 2015, 16, 17, 18.
So I have to defend Sitch and Adam's honor a little bit while watching and hearing this conversation. Okay. So to be clear, I am more with Pisco. I think that Adam Friended has been particularly craven in his political analysis over the past year. I think that he is, whether he wants to admit it or not, audience captured, and he does not want to piss off his base that are effectively anti-SJWs who are looking for any excuse to vote for Trump, which is why he conducted himself the way that he conducted himself in the past year. However, I do think that there's an easy way to summarize this, which is anti-SJW. That's what it is. There was an entire movement throughout the 10s. It was headed by Sargon of Akkad and Shoe on Head and Chris Reagan and all those characters. And all those characters were anti-SJWs. So the fact that Pisco can't succinctly summarize anti-SJW while still describing it accurately, I wonder if he's too young to be familiar with the term. I have no idea. But, come on, bro.
These kinds of types, you know them, right? Sargon of Akkad, kind of Bering. This guy Bering, remember that guy?
This feels like a weird association, by the way.
These kinds of channels that pretty much existed to talk shit about wokies on campus. A kind of online version of Charlie Kirk with respect to the cultural stuff. And that's their shtick. Now, they venture every now and then into some kind of observational political stuff, but they're really kind of dumb and stupid on that stuff. And
again, I have to defend their honor. Adam Friended, I don't think is particularly bright, but I do think that he can read. He has the capacity to consume new information, regurgitate it. I don't think he's particularly insightful, but he is capable of regurgitating complex information. Sitch is a smart guy. Sitch can hold his own in a conversation. He can be insightful. He can carry complex ideas in his head. He can follow the logic of opposing argumentation. Sitch is not a stupid person. So I just have to defend Sitch's honor real quick in that regard.
trounced on whenever they bring people on to debate. And so they're now very selective about who they debate. And they have a reputation, Adam especially, for having a quick trigger finger when it comes to blocking people and banning people from their stream or from Twitter. This is especially Adam. And it should tell you a little bit something, you know, their main, I guess, ally in this space is Anna Kasparian. I would never say that they're like hardcore MAGA people or hardcore right-wingers. They also, you know, really chafe at the notion that they're neutral. People think that they're like centrists. Sometimes they have called themselves centrists in the past on some issues, but they kind of don't like these labels being attributed to them. Neutral, centrist. They're independent thinkers, of course. But they are kind of out of touch with the current meta, in my opinion, in terms of their commentary. In other words, they're trying to retrofit this anti-woke, you know, movement, which is geared towards cultural Marxism, geared towards, what are these other hot topic, like, I don't know, the terminology here. Think, for example, like intersectionality.
Come on, Pisco. I think I listened to it yesterday, and I was so interested in the topic that I thought the flow was a little bit better. But here's another thing that I know that he's not going to address that I want to address. So lefties can be a little bit dismissive of the concept. Now I'm talking like Pisco. My apologies. They can be dismissive of the concept that there's anything wrong with, like, cultural Marxism is a lefty dog whistle. But I drew a map the other day that I would want people to debunk effectively. And I think it's historically accurate. So just while we're waiting for Pisco to let the coffee kick in, okay? So in reference to the Soviet Union, in my opinion, we had the Soviet Union, which had Stalinism, which was a vanguard party, you know, led by Stalin, who was, you know, in turn inspired by Marxist-Leninism. And then we had kind of like a renormalization under Gorbachev, and then we had the collapse of the Soviet Union. In reference to China, we had the vanguard party of Mao that then stabilized into the reforms of Deng Xiaoping, and then now it's kind of in a state capitalist pseudo-fascist society. Well, Gramsci was a lefty who observed the revolutions in the Soviet Union. I don't know if he observed the revolutions in China, but he was wondering why communist revolutions were happening in feudal societies instead of capitalist societies, the way that Marx had predicted. And so what he said is that culture, like the public culture, military, law enforcement, industry, media, were counter-revolutionary forces that prevented a socialist revolution. Therefore, he advocated for, I don't know if this was his specific terminology, but a long march through academia, where you would reform culture with lefty ideas in order to kind of make socialism more palatable. And it's arguable that he inspired Marcuse, who was I want to say 70s and 80s German philosopher who lived in the United States, who taught a lot of West Coast elites who were socialists and leftists. And so Marcuse inspired the New Left, the culture war. He was ultimately banned, and I think his visa was denied by President Reagan. And then a lot of the people that Marcuse inspired are the authors of diversity, equity, inclusion, CRT, intersectionality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the question is whether or not these people are going to in turn inspire a movement towards social democracy and socialism. So while oftentimes people dismiss Sitch and Adam and myself and people like James Lindsay as Nazi conspiracy theorists who offer cover for anti-communist fascists by normalizing this idea, I've been called a fascist apologist. I've been called a Nazi. I haven't heard anybody deny this like historical progression of events or ideas. So I would be curious if there's any lefties out there, if there's any progressives out there, I would be curious for you to debunk this narrative that Gramsci inspired Marcuse and Marcuse inspired a bunch of professors over the past 40 or 50 years who in turn wrote the progressive ideologies that have dominated our cultural discourse for the past 20 or 30 years. Please feel free to debunk me.
There's one CRT, right? Critical race theory. They have that kind of lens, and they're trying to apply it to current day. But don't you remember, like, that era of online discourse? It was pretty centered around free speech as one of like the core concepts. Like, one of the reasons why everyone was like upset at these wokies wasn't just because of their beliefs. And take it from me, like, I did speak out against a lot of the wokeism gone too far on campus. When I did, I lost friends as a result of it at its height. So there were definitely some like beliefs that people that were wrong, and like, you know, people are right to call out, and I even called out. But one of the big things in that sort of cancel culture discourse was the importance of free speech, the importance of...
Ooh, Philip makes an interesting point. We are 13 members away from 100 members. That's pretty cool. So quick shill time. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage in chat, super chats if you got it, memberships if you got it. And if we get 13 memberships today, we will have 100 members in the chat, which is crazy because we're at 120 right now. So literally, like, well, not literally, but actually, we would have as many members as we have regular viewers, which would be fucking dope.
Protecting the free marketplace of ideas. That was very much a big central focus or core part of that movement, that these wokies, these woke scolds, are stopping people from speaking out on campus because of their point of view. And it was true to some extent, right? They canceled, what's this woman, Christine Lagarde, the head of the either the World Bank or the IMF. Certainly a lot of more controversial figures like Milo Yiannopoulos and others had certain talks canceled. It intersected a little bit with
TL1524 with a vicious comment. Pisco on stream. We need to talk about Trump. Pisco in a debate. Yes or no? TL1524. That's rude as shit.
Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. Now, this all happened in the context of school policies or cultural policies from, or I should say cultural attitudes from individuals and from industries.
Well, hold on. All right. Now, Pisco's taking a while to articulate, but I guess that's why we should fight amongst chat for entertainment purposes. Arguing against DEI makes one a piece of shit. Why? Okay. Now, I'm going to say, like, in general, diversity conceptions. Okay. So let's talk about like affirmative action, because I think affirmative action predated DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I like flipping lefty thought experiments on their head. That's what I like doing. So for me, with affirmative action, it's like you got two candidates. One of them's white, one of them's black, but they're otherwise, the same on paper, or one of them's Muslim or gay or trans or Pakistani or some shit, right? And then you look at it on paper, they're pretty much the same candidate. So then you go with like the progressive one, or the progressive, not politics, but you go with the one that is less likely to be represented within the company. I don't really have a problem with that, because maybe it's because I'm like an elitist or whatever, but I think whenever you interview for a job, you should be so like charismatic and so obviously good for the role that you should pretty much blow your competition out of the water. I know that's not possible for everybody, but I would think that that's like, with the amount of energy that you spend bitching about how like some random Pakistani took your job, if you spent that time and energy that you spent being pissed off that a Pakistani took your job on professional development, you wouldn't lose the next job interview to a random like Pakistani or a gay person or a disabled person, right? You would just kick their fucking ass in the interview process and you would get the job. Now, maybe that's elitist. I don't know, but you know, that's the way that I feel. Anyways, so what you're saying though, with diversity, equity, inclusion, I think is a step further. I think that's all the HR bullshit that I had to do when I went to corporate America, where they had like AAIP, Asian Pacific Islander sensitivity training, where we had to like sit down for a day in order to go over microaggressions about Asians, where we weren't allowed to like stereotype them about how they're good at math and shit. And for me, like, you know, no offense to the progressives or whatever, or the Asians who give a shit about that, but like, that just feels like a fucking waste of time. That feels like we have a business. We're here to run the business. We're here to do stuff. And you just want to bitch about how like Mark in accounting was kind of annoying to you one day. And it's like, I kind of don't give a fuck. I don't think we should be wasting the productive time of a business with you bitching about Mark from accounting being a little bit rude one day. So for me, you can say like diversity, equity, and inclusion isn't that, it's this. But for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm insufficiently woke. You tell me. You tell me what's good about DEI. Anyways, back to Pisco.
Like Hollywood, etc. This cancel culture stuff. It wasn't, strictly speaking, government regulation of speech. It wasn't government censorship, which is really what the First Amendment.
Triggering a rant. So I'm with Pisco that the government didn't explicitly order the kind of censorious progressive nature of social media in the late 10s. However, what's funny is I'm actually friends with one of the people now who ran the Twitter NGO. Do you guys remember when there was like a non-governmental organization that was responsible for sending like hundreds of accounts for referral for violating Twitch and YouTube terms of service? I need to draw another mind map. I hope you guys are excited. Well, let's do another Microsoft Paint mind map, because I'm of split minds here. Okay, so let's move the government to the middle because they're going to be the most powerful institution. So here's the government. Here's not that. Here's social media, legacy media, pop culture, I guess. And let's do the NGOs. So when it comes to alt media, legacy, and what would we call this? Like pop culture, right? Pop culture. And then I would say, let's put like advertisers. Okay. I think that's another influence in this space. Text, advertisers. And I'll just put government here. Okay. So the United States is a liberal project. And what I mean by that is the Constitution of the United States is effectively a liberal document. It is philosophically of the Enlightenment. And it argues that individual freedom is a human good and that the government is instantiated by its people to guard their interests, to physically secure them, and allow them to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So it's by default, the United States of America project is like liberal philosophically. And so what I would say is that a substantive amount of advertisers, they like maximal human freedom. And the reason why is because maximal human freedom allows them to sell a bunch of crap to the American people. So advertisers themselves are liberal. They're rarely going to be fascist because they want to appeal to a max, and they don't necessarily care about if you're gay or brown or black or Muslim or whatever, they just want you to buy their shit, right? So I would say the government and advertisers actually believe in the American liberal project. Then I would say it's the same thing with pop culture. Pop culture loves sex and degeneracy and drugs and Louis Vuitton handbags and all the consumerist bourgeois bullshit that we associate with it. Legacy media wants access to the government, so they oftentimes play nice with the government. But weirdly enough, legacy media is also reliant on advertisers for funding, and they also want access to pop culture. And so these are all like, these lines going back and forth are basically representing wanting liberal shit. Now, the thing about alt media that's cool, that I like, is that you can be a dissident in alt media, and that's okay. You can be a fascist, you can be a communist, you can be a Nazi, you can be whatever you want. And as long as your stuff is within terms of service, relatively speaking, you can co-opt alt media. And so I would actually say that that's how MAGA thrived is, who was it? JD Vance just came out the other day and he said that he's like a post-liberal. He's like an anti-liberal conservative, which I think is fucking crazy. That the vice president of the United States just said that shit. But, whatever. I shouldn't be shocked. And so the alternative media was a place for like right-wing dissidents to hang out. Well, the argument here is that the liberal project that America is working in doesn't really like illiberal people. And so the government, let me leave that red. And so the government was paying NGOs in order to report people to social media companies in order to tamp down on dissident alternative media. And so there's actually, I don't think she'll mind me saying her name. Renee DeRestra is somebody who I met in social media, and she was effectively a part of, I think it was like Georgetown University, or she was a part of like Berkeley, I forget. And what's interesting enough is that she's like a California Republican, or at least she was a California Republican. I don't know what she is now. But her job, she was, in my opinion, now she could correct me on details, but her job was to be paid by the government in order to report social media violations that typically were illiberal. And what I mean by that is like people fucking with voting stuff, people fucking with COVID information, people fucking with, like Russian apologia and all that kind of stuff. And then that got tamped down. But that is ultimately, I'm going to stop my yap in a second, I promise. But that's ultimately an illiberal project itself, because you're tamping down on the free expression and free consumption of ideas. So I agree that these ideas are dog shit, but the fact that liberalism has a hegemony, a cultural hegemony in advertisement, in pop culture, in legacy media, and then they feel the need to pay NGOs in order to tamp down on dissident media, it's like, is liberalism strong enough to survive criticism or not? And if it is, allow it to be criticized. Allow the schizo dissident freaks to say whatever the fuck they want and fight them in the marketplace of ideas. So I'm going to save this as faith in the liberal American project. And I'm going to shut the fuck up because I'm too tired. I hope that made some level of sense, and I hope it was in English.
And it's about. I think there's a broader conception of free speech and open inquiry that we should strive for in many environments, but
Andrew G. Kanopoulos says, I feel stupid, but where do I click to become a membership? It should be a part of the $sign, I think. So if you go to, I'm going to go to YouTube real quick. Sorry, this is important because I do want to get those 13 memberships so we can hit 100. That would be sweet. YouTube real quick. So if you go to YouTube, there should be a $sign. If you click on the $sign, there should be super stickers, super chat, membership, and membership gifting. I think once you become a member yourself, it allows you to gift memberships. So yeah, so on YouTube chat, just go down to the $sign, click that, and then see what's up.
that's me personally. I think it's also a matter of right for some of these institutions to decide what speech to include and what speech to exclude. You know, it's well within YouTube's right to say, hey, no pornography on our website, or hey, on Twitch, this is just for gaming, if it's just for gaming. Or if you have a private school, you know, putting aside the issues of the government funding, which we can sort of address later, that if they want to have the speech they want to have on campus, that's on them. Again, those are some thorny issues of, you know, intersecting of government, you know, with respect to like a public school or something. But largely, the kind of censorship that people were attacking from this culturally critical lens of the wokeism was one that was embracing of a broad conception of the First Amendment and highly critical of censorship. Enter Donald Trump, who gets elected kind of at the tail end of the height of the woke, you know, what would you want to call it, the woke movement. Elected in 2016, goes in office in 2017. And these guys kind of exist, people like Sitch and Adam, to provide a false equivalence between Democrats and Republicans, and to kind of paint critiques of Trump, or many central core critiques of Trump, as like deranged or coming from a place of Trump derangement syndrome. Sitch and Adam in particular.
Okay. I think that is potentially a function of the show, is that whenever you criticize Trump, a substantive amount of the audience rebels. However, I don't think Sitch is like that. I'm just going to say it. I don't think Sitch is necessarily sweeping. I think they overly target the left, which could be viewed as a kind of sweeping. I agree with that. I agree that the aim of the political project could be to kind of create like this contrarian center-right morass of people who ultimately will lean towards the right, lean towards Trump. But I don't think that Sitch is knowingly saying like, you could never criticize Trump. Matter of fact, I've heard him go on pretty blistering criticisms of Trump that have pissed off at least half of the audience. And I think that's part of the game that they play too, is that they want to piss off their audience a little bit. They don't want to piss them so off that they totally alienate them and people never show up again. They probably don't want to soy the fuck out the way that I soy the fuck out about Trump, but they also don't want like a total hug box. And that's part of what I like about Sitch. That's part of what I like about the show, especially when I watch it, is that they do want to fight. They want to fight amongst themselves and they want to fight their audience. And I like that. Lawson Harrison for $10 says, I wish Lindsay was more palatable to center left. He has more book learning and postmodern stuff than anyone, but is dismissed because of reasons. These ideas are going to come back to bite us in the ass. I mean, I kind of agree. I think that James Lindsay, though, he does go a little bit schizophrenic, where effectively he sees like a left-wing conspiracy in every shadow because he's been consuming that content for so long that he can't watch two gay guys kiss in a TV show and be like, okay, well, yeah, that might be like a progressive cultural push, but sometimes gay people just want to be represented. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he's so deep in the molasses that he can't just appreciate like a random cultural artifact that's a product of its time. It has to be like a communist conspiracy to force you to watch gay people kiss.
Take this approach of a kind of highly neutral observer. And I use the word neutral purposely, deliberately.
Sorry, I keep interrupting the content. But Paul says, imagine being in a court. I'm going to add that addendum. You're giving your testimony, and Pisco is asking questions like, yes or no? Yes or no? Dude, I bet Pisco, for all my criticisms of Pisco, I bet he rattled the fuck out of some people in like cross-examination and witness testimony and all that kind of shit. I bet he rattled the fuck out of some normies. Too bad I'm in the Twitch and YouTube political space, bitch. I got autism. That shit doesn't work on me.
Comes to Sitch. Only to mean nonpartisan. Okay? Self-described nonpartisans. That's what I mean by neutral. Not that they don't have an opinion on every issue, but that they profess not to be partisanly aligned. They're not committed to either party. So, for example, Sitch says He will not vote for president in an election. And the reason he won't.
Vatsimo says, just bootstrap systemic oppression, white man. I sure will. Get good, you fucking loser. Dude, sorry, but like unironically, Vatsimo, this is what whites said to Jews and blacks and Hispanics for the past 100 years. They were like, listen, if you want to win in the employment game, just get good, forehead. So yeah, dude, if we said that to the blacks and the Jews and the gays and the fucking lesbians and the women and all that shit, like, yeah, get good, forehead. You know, get your degree, be personable, be charming, you know, apply for a variety of jobs. Don't be such a fucking loser that you think that just sending in 20 resumes to random Indeed, I don't know, man. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but basically I could spend 30 to 40 minutes with you on how I have consistently been employed since I was 15. I started working since I was 15. I have not stopped working since that time. It has not been difficult to get employed. And if there is some secret mojo juice that you need that I can give you in order to be employable, I will be happy to give it to you.
Not vote for president is he wants to remain.
Dude, Harmonic Fox wants to help you out. She says, what if the trans person is a Nazi furry? Futsimo, you and the Nazi furry might have a lot in common. You could probably get hired.
Above any kind of hint of partiality, even within himself. That so high is his standard. I don't know.
Lawson Harrison says, yeah, but I'm white and it's bullshit that I should have to try. Wrong. Life is about trying. Life is about showing up and life is about trying. Wrong. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. Oh, I accidentally kicked my monitors. Oh, it's coming back. All right.
Journalistic integrity, or, you know, they're not really journalists, or commentary integrity, that he won't even vote. Now, Adam doesn't take that view. They're technically different people, but they're not partisanly aligned, or they profess not to be partisanly aligned.
Sorry, I have to keep pausing. Christian Blair's witness on the stand. What? I don't understand you. Pisco, Your Honor, may I treat the witness as hostile? That's awesome.
But they know where their bread is buttered. And so a couple times in the past, their audience, which has developed an increasingly, you know, anti-woke streak, has also developed a kind of pro-Trump streak, or that's associated with each other. Those people are associated with each other. And so there's this constant, even though you can point to times where, and we will in this course of this review, point to times where Adam and Sitch have been highly critical of.
Yeah, conservatism says you have a friend who ran a snitch NGO. Yeah. So we can look her up. I hope she doesn't mind me doing it. Renee DiResta. She's actually fascinating woman. Absolutely fascinating. Renee DiResta. So she looks like an SJW, but she's actually not. So Renee, she's really cool. She's really personable. She's really smart. She was in Congress, and she was, in her opinion, a Californian Republican in San Francisco. And so one of the things that she saw out there was like the tech people, like all the tech bros, like the Peter Thiel, JD Vance tech bros, the post-liberal right. She saw their rise. She saw them come into power within San Francisco. She also saw them fight in the school system, because the school system was getting so woke that they were arguing that they needed to decolonize the math program in San Francisco public schools. And it was actually the anti-liberal right. Well, she could correct me on the details of the story, but it was effectively like that spurred the formation of the anti-liberal right and actually created a dynamic in San Francisco where tech bros went to war with the school board in order to avoid the decolonization of math, because all the tech bros were like, they got smart kids, right? They're multi-millionaire. Oh, thank you, baby. They're multimillionaire San Francisco tech people. They got Asian kids. They got, white kids. They got kids who are just going to like kick ass and take names and crawl up the corpo ladder. And they want them to be in the most advanced mathematics possible. And so that actually started a schism between the progressives and the liberals and the anti-liberals in San Francisco. And ultimately, the math program stayed like really aggressive because they didn't want to decolonize the math in San Francisco, even though San Francisco is one of the most woke places on the planet. But I'm just reading her thing so you can kind of see who my friend is. I'm Renee, and I study adversarial abuse online, ways that people attempt to manipulate, harass, or target others with a constantly evolving landscape of digital platforms. Sometimes this involves tracking state actors running influence operations with the intent of increasing their political power or tearing a rival society apart. Sometimes it's investigating spam and scams, which also aim to influence people. Through the manipulators are usually motivated by money rather than ideology. And sometimes my work includes studying child safety issues, including increasingly their intersection with generative AI. The internet is an ecosystem and the challenges are interconnected. New technologies transform old problems. I'm interested in exploring not only how problems manifest, but what we can do about them. And so I write about content moderation, not only explaining how it currently works, but envisioning how it might be better to maximize free expression while minimizing abuse. I write about design, our tools shape how we interact with each other, and we should create them to serve us well. And finally, I translate research into policy suggestions. It's critical to ensure that powerful companies remain accountable. Everyone should understand how our tech ecosystem works, the impact that it has on society, and the role we play within it. To that end, I try to write accessible and entertaining explainers and books to help make sense of it all. Sign up to receive updates on my latest work, media appearances, and authors. Well, that might sound to you like she's like a censorious, woke, anti-bigoted blue hair freak. But the way that she describes herself is that she's effectively a Californian Republican who's trying to make sure that the internet doesn't, go off the rails. And she would say 90% of her work, at least the way that we talked about it, was actually breaking up Russian and Chinese bot farms and also breaking up child porn rings. So 90% of her work was intervening against state actors and intervening against child porn rings. And then 10% of it was, oh, this is COVID misinformation. Oh, this is election misinformation. You know what I'm saying? So hate her if you want, but I'm not going to.
Trump and Trump administration policies, it's always with the backdrop of, oh, but look at the Democrats, they're fucking up, right? It's that kind of shit, right? We talked a little bit about this with Avi, and I think that this is right, that there is a kind of person who just takes their critique of the Republicans and always juxtaposed it next to Democratic failures. And I think I even recognize that as being super annoying and super prevalent among many of these types, including full-on lefties. And so that I recognize, that's very frustrating. And in this case, it's super frustrating. However, recently, and I am someone who I'm very willing to let bygones be bygones. I don't really block people that often. I don't really delete stuff or say that people are forever below sort of my standard or something. If someone is willing to come up and make amends, by and large, I'm open to that. They took an interaction that we had very personally and basically blacklisted me and blocked me. At least Adam did. And I wanted to give you guys, in the wake of this tweet against the Econo Boy, where essentially Adam is being smug and like,
ooh, Christian Blaris became a member. That means that we got 12 memberships left until we break 100.
Happy because the Econo Boy has taken a step back from politics.
Just Carpet 563 gifted a membership. I think that means we got, I think they said 13, so we're down to 11. Thank you, Just Carpet 563. Thank you, Christian Blaris.
In part, I would say, due to the kind of unfair backlash that he's received. That's not, I think, the sole or even the main reason, but I think it's in part. That said, because he made this kind of smug tweet, basically celebrating this and saying like he's happy about it after he got totally crushed by Econo Boy in a conversation about his view of socialism,
I don't agree with this characterization at all, but that's okay. Maybe I'm still too center right to concede that Econo Boy crushed Sitch and Adam in a debate. Because again, if he crushed them in a debate, but they repeated our talking points, why did Econo Boy perfectly articulate my criticisms in a conversation with Lonerbox? I'm very serious about this. I'm not going to bore you guys to death with it. I'm not going to force you to watch it. But there is a segment on Lonerbox Live, Lonerbox's channel, where Econo Boy perfectly articulates all of my criticism, agrees to them, and then says that that's what he's going to do going forward. And of course, he retired like a week later.
His view of economics or whatever. And we might go back to that debate at some point. I decided, why don't we take a look again at what started my blacklist and why I think Adam is such a piece of shit. So let me take you back to 2024. Adam tweets the following about Kamala. I don't think Kamala can beat Trump, but at least she is physically capable of campaigning against Trump. The idea that Biden can win this election is laughable.
This is where we're actually going to get into the substance of the conversation. I'm very much looking forward to the next 30 minutes.
Biden campaigns, the more obvious it becomes that he is unfit to be president. And let me start by offering this basic premise. If you tweet something on your Twitter and you're a political commentator, you are opening yourself up for criticism and interaction. You get me?
Straight up, don't be a pussy. Don't put your ideas out into public and then be like, oh, why are you criticizing me? This is such weak-made bitch shit.
Like, if you don't want people to respond with the thing you're saying, you can just not tweet it. You can block replies, except for certain people that you follow. You can say that there are no replies whatsoever, or you can just keep it to your fucking self. This is Twitter. Like, I expect when I tweet something, even something uncontroversial. The other day I tweeted something like, or this wasn't the other day, some months ago, I actually think Abraham Lincoln was good or something. Thank you so much for the super chat here, Josiah. I tweeted like something like, bro, remember when they blamed Dems for Kevin McCarthy? Oh, we'll get into that stuff because I want to go over all the different times that they accused me of being a scorpion or being an asshole or something. I tweeted something like, Lincoln was good at.
Sorry, that whole thing of keep it to yourself hit so hard the other day. You're allowed to have private opinions, okay? You don't have to be like me. I'm a freak. No, in my social life or whatever, a lot of people think I'm like funny or weird, but they find my constant need to share opinions on complex topics off-putting. So, if you're hanging out with a bunch of politics or autistic spurgs, it's kind of the expectation that whatever you're thinking about, you're going to cohere it into an opinion, and then you're going to blast it out into the ether for people to contend with. That's kind of like the nature of the Twitch and YouTube political space. But guess what? You don't have to be a freak like me. You can just have an opinion and think it, and then keep it to your fucking self. I don't want you guys to do that because, frankly, I love it when you share your autistic spurg opinions with me, and then we get to fight in our chat. That's part of the entertainment of being in the space. But I just want to share that with an option where you're like, ma'am, I keep fighting with my family over politics. I keep fighting with my friends over politics. I'm losing employment opportunities because of my opinions on politics. You can just have an opinion and keep it to yourself. That's not as fun, but you can do it.
Actually, and the replies are all people like Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, Lincoln was a dictator, Lincoln was the worst president ever. So like you can tweet anything you want that you think is like positive. You tweet a picture of a puppy and they'll be like, well, now at this point, there's the whole meme that Matan had, but you could tweet a puppy. You could tweet a picture of you and your mom picking flowers or something, and they'll be like, fuck your mama. Like, this is Twitter, okay? Twitter, especially when you've like leaned into politics, is a place where there's going to be commentary on your tweets, there's going to be discussion of your tweets, and there's going to be interactions about your tweets, okay? So I do what I do, which is contrary to what people say of me now that I'm willing to abide by people doing both sidesism of Biden or of Trump. I just tweet in response to this kind of enlightened neutral, and by neutral I mean nonpartisan. So just so you guys know, I'm going to keep saying quote neutral, and when I say neutral, I'm referring to nonpartisan. I'm not referring to him not having a view on anything, as though that were the definition of neutral, that you just don't have views. Pretty weird, right? Pretty weird interpretation of the term neutral, where I guess neutral means you don't have a view on anything at all. Maybe that's like okay for like news reporters to refer to them as neutral in that sense. But I'm using neutral to refer to like not Republican or Democrat. Okay. So this enlightened neutral tweets this, and I interact with it like I do in the lead up to this election, which was so important to me. Quote, agreed, Trump is more unfit to be the president and that you'll never vote for him. Adam says, cutely, never say never. And I say, this is why people accuse you of being MAGA and of having audience capture, because you're willing, quite willing, to say President Biden is unfit. You are not willing to say the same of Trump. It stands to reason that you would prefer Trump in office to Biden. Fair? And this is me trying to linearize, trying to be like, hang on, this is, you're not being fair. You're willing to say, obviously, that Biden, is not fit in terms of mental capacity. But you say,
sorry, I am I'm eating my breakfast tacos, which are delicious, thanks to Mrs. Points. Philip Coffey says, how do you feel about the snitching vis-a-vis the paradox of tolerance? It sounds like she may have gone too far, but in the defense of liberalism, what levels are okay? I think it all came out in the wash, truth be told. Now, maybe this is maybe this is just weird, but we live in a free society, and people are ultimately free to do weird things, and I don't know what to do about it. So with the legacy media, if they have a vested interest in getting access to the government and maintaining liberalism, because ultimately America is a liberal or progressive project, depending on your definition, I still think conservatives have like a vital role to play in the ecosystem. And I also think that I try to inhabit the best parts of conservatism. But the truth is that, like I said, pop culture and advertisers want freedom so they can sell the most amount of people the most amount of shit. Pop culture wants freedom so they can probably in turn sell shit for the advertisers, but also so they can be degenerate, lustful, sensuous freaks, and they can use sex and drugs and aesthetics in order to sell their artists. So they want to be liberal, right? And then legacy media and pop culture, all these people want to support each other in the liberal project. With the paradox of tolerance, I do think that it's necessary for people who genuinely believe in the Republic of the United States of America and the United States as an endeavor to criticize the dissidents. But should the government be taking everybody's taxpayer dollars, funneling it to non-governmental organizations who help suppress the dissidents? And I don't know. I know that it might not technically violate the First Amendment, but I guarantee you that's exactly how it felt. It felt like at minimum it's violating the spirit of the First Amendment. So I mean, look at some of the dissidents in our chat. Like Fatsimo or Justin or I'm trying to think like old school before I banned him because he's such a fucking piece of shit. But they're going to tell you, like, why is my government that I pay tax dollars using third-party institutions in order to suppress my speech? What the fuck is up with that? And they view it at minimum as a bypassing of the First Amendment to suppress their earnestly held beliefs. So yeah, truth be told, I don't have a good answer. I really don't. It's very complicated, and I don't know if there's a solution besides you have to decide whether or not freedom is good and whether or not you should let people be free, even if they do stupid shit with their freedom. And I think the answer for me is yes.
You say nothing about Trump's fitness. That's not really being the alleged neutral or the alleged nonpartisan. If you treat two people who you take, I understand, to be unfit for office, and we'll get to why I think Adam thought that Trump was unfit for office, at least at a given time, or at least it behooved him to make that kind of suggestion, you would acknowledge both. You would acknowledge, you make a tweet like Biden will lose and Trump is also unfit to be president. He says, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to vote for Trump, but if Democrats nominate a dementia patient, I'm not sure I have a choice. It's going to be between Trump or Dementia Joe. And keep this in mind. Maybe I'll make another thread of this at some point.
So Philip became a member, so I think that brings us down to 10. We need 10 new memberships to break 100 memberships. So thank you for that.
I think ultimately said, now you'll have to quote me on this, or I don't know. Yeah, maybe you can fact check me on this. But I believe I have a 70% certainty that I heard Adam ultimately say that he didn't vote for either candidate, not unlike our friend Anna Kasparian. Now that would counter the kind of position that Adam had taken before, where he was kind of going at Sitch and saying, hey, you can't be on the fence like this. There's really only two realistic options. So ultimately, I think it was that Adam did not vote for either Trump or Kamala, countering a previous statement that he made where he was.
Andrew G. Kanopoulos says, how do I become a member? Having a tough time figuring out where to click. It should be the $ if you're on desktop. If you're on mobile, I don't know.
Kind of insisting to Sitch and saying, hey, you should vote for someone of the two major parties because it really is only a choice between those two. But we'll get into that a little bit further on. Needless to say, though, at this point, and this is prior to Biden dropping out, right? And this is him basically saying Biden should drop out. And then we have Hutch in the replies. It is difficult to imagine someone who purports to be on the left and care about liberal democracy entertain the possibility of voting for someone who openly and corruptly abused their power in office and then did the same to try and disenfranchise millions of voters. Just how? If the Dems nominate someone who is literally incapable of doing the job, what choice do I have? I ask, who will you vote for? Things could change between now and the election, but at this point, I'd vote for Trump over Biden. So he had a stated intention in July of 2024 that he was going to vote for Trump over Biden. It's a matter of record. By the way, after he replied to this tweet, he kind of went unhinged. He was, I think, mad. There are some people who do this. Like when I kind of linearize a little bit and demand this answer, I know people make fun of me for it, but after they give the answer, they're like upset that they gave that answer. And so I noticed after he gave this answer, after he said Trump over Biden, because a bunch of people on Reddit kind of clipped it and shot pictures around it, that he got really mad at me and untakeable.
Which, by the way, is bitch made shit. Okay. If you want to vote for Trump, that's fine. Well, it's not fine. I actually think you're wrong. But stand on business, dude. Say, listen, the woke stuff has gone too far for 10 years. I know that Trump did all this bad stuff, but realistically, I think he has these virtues that are good for somebody in this office. And I think that the Overton window has shifted so far left that we need to yank it right. So even with all the dangers, all the incompetency, all the stupidity, I think that we need Trump instead of a Democrat right now. I'll think it's stupid. I'll criticize the shit out of it, but at least you stood on business. And I think that the thing that a lot of people got pissed off at, including me, is that we all knew that this was Adam's opinion, but he wouldn't just stand on business and say, yup, this is it. I'm voting for Trump because the Democrats have pissed me off that bad. Y'all can talk shit about Tallybots, but at least Tallybots has the balls to stay up. Tallybots has more balls than Adam Friended. Tallybots will say, yup, October 7, 2023, anti-Semitic bullshit, random woke anti-white racism. It rubbed me wrong. I think the left has gone too far. I am, voting for Trump. That's what she said. And when people criticize for it, she's like, yeah, maybe it's stupid, but fuck you. Right? That should be Adam's opinion. But he has less balls than Tallybots. Fast and Bulba says, ever seen a deep cut Iraq war vid with US soldiers in bat versus goat? To this day, I can't stand to hear the sounds of bats hitting things. I'm assuming what you're talking about is some video where like US soldiers or Marines or whatever kill a goat with a baseball bat. I'm not interested in exposing myself to that. The cruelty of war brings out the cruelty in people. And so as a result, like people mistake cruelty for strength. And so they try to do fucked up and horrifying things to show that they are capable of doing fucked up and horrifying things. But I think that if you talk to veterans, there are a lot of veterans who are kind of ashamed of any cruelty that they participated in. They'll cope with it and they'll say like, "Oh, I just needed to do it at the time." But the people around them who witnessed the cruelty and didn't say anything or didn't do anything to stop them, I've met a few veterans who actually have substantive PTSD, not because they themselves did something fucked up, but because they saw somebody else do something fucked up and they didn't say or do anything about it because they knew they were in a wartime scenario and they didn't want to risk their lives in order to stop something immoral or seek justice for something immoral. So I know, like, within a war with 200,000 dead, you know, who is mourning a goat that was abused to death? But, you know, I do. I think that if you kill an animal, you should do, like, for food, or kill an animal for a reason, you should do it as painlessly as possible, right? Hot take. When you kill something, try to do it with a minimal amount of pain to the thing that you're killing.
But here it is, clear as day. Adam Friended said that he would prefer at this point in time to vote for Trump over Biden. And the logic of it that he would give, we'll get into. But no one is lying about Adam Friended when we say that he was willing to vote for Trump.
Ooh, down to 9 memberships, Kings. 9 memberships. Andrew Giaconopoulos figured it out. Based. Thank you, King.
And that he preferred Trump over Biden. Now we get into the receipts that I provided. And after this, by the way, he blocked me. 10 months ago, this is 10 months from July, so this is the day after we had this little Twitter spat, Adam said he was personally uncomfortable about the increasing of Donald Trump's popularity because, quote, "I don't want to see a second term of Donald Trump."
I'm not advocating.
Zero Fuck says, NGOs are a disease. The few that honestly try to do good are held down by the many that are hindrances. I stand by my statement. Renee was a part of something disgusting. But you know what's funny, Zero Fucks, is that, like, Tim Pool and probably Such an Adam, truth be told, and other centrist media outlets painted her out to be like a total blue-haired SJW freak, which was shocking to her because that's not how she views herself, and that's not how she was treated in politics. Maybe she's coping. I have no idea. But when it comes to NGOs, like, USAID was vilified for being like an absolutely abhorrent, organization with like all of this like waste, fraud, and abuse. But if you look at the number one recipient of funds from USAID, it was Catholic charities. It was the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church was providing international adoption services and hospice care for old people. And then you look at the projections for the people who are allegedly going to die over the next 5 years because of the destruction of USAID, and it's 14 million people. And then you look at what PEPFAR did, which was like, I don't know, $6 billion out of the $10 billion that got cut. And it is, it's like we saved 25 million lives estimated over the past 20 years. So, like, for me, Zero Fucks, I respect your posting game. I respect your Twitter game. I respect your chatting game. But I'm kind of asking, like, what NGO is repulsive to you and why? Right? Because if you just go with Shoe on Head's video, she had dog shit representation of half the NGOs she criticized.
I'm not advocating that people change the way that they're doing things. I'm saying that the way that they're doing things now are having an unintended consequence that they're not taking into consideration. I think the jabs, the underhanded jabs, are increasing Donald Trump's popularity in a way that makes me personally uncomfortable because I don't want to see.
Zero Fuck says, it's hard for me to say it all comes out in the wash when I know people that got their sources of income taken away from them for questioning the narrative. Well, tell me what. Give me some examples, because I'm skeptical and hostile to your perspective, but I'm in a happy-go-lucky mood. So I want to hear you out. I want to hear your line of argumentation. Shadow 2 Bravo and zero fucks.
Second term of Donald Trump.
So clearly, within this time span, he was demonstrating that he was against Trump winning an election. He doesn't want to see a second term of Trump. Now, that is, you can argue there was something that changed in this time period from between 10 months ago and that tweet that he gave that he was going to prefer voting for Trump over Biden, given where the election was at. But this was 10 months ago, at a time when, you know, Biden, apparently Biden's cognitive decline, its severity was obvious throughout his presidency, even in the 2020, lead up to the 2020 election. So you would think, okay, he's aware about this, but maybe like other people were.
Philip Coffey brings up an excellent point. In reference to my question, I think that's a valid point regarding it coming from the government. Maybe the answer is more grill hottest bullying militias. Philip Coffey, I unironically agree with the sentiment. So I think that we have allowed, because social media incentivizes extremeness, right? Extremity. So Hassan Piker and Destiny, even though he's a liberal, he has extreme rhetoric, and Nick Fuentes, they kind of have an advantage because they can say crazy shit, and then that gets them attention, positive and negative, that allows them to grow really, really, really quickly. But then they're kind of trapped in a gilded cage where they have to continue to say crazy shit in order to remain relevant. Whereas the normies, they just have to capitalize on being a fucking normie, and they have to criticize crazy ideas. So at least in my opinion, it's a slower way to grow. Saying, hey guys, I'm not schizophrenic, let me criticize extreme people. It's not as sexy as just being extreme yourself, right? And so, but unironically, just because we grow slower doesn't mean we can't be more stable. And what I mean by that is if you look at the shocks that have happened to Vosh's community, Destiny's community, Hassan's community, Nick Fuentes' community, et cetera, they're very powerful, they're very fast growing, but they're also very unstable. And when the creator says something that doesn't fit the schizophrenic ideal, they lose vast swaths of their audience. And so the question is whether or not we can hoover up not only the normies who don't want the entirety of society to collapse, but can we, you know, get the people who were previously following schizophrenic doom death cults, if we can get those people to be fucking normal. And I don't know the answer to that question, but, you know, I'm trying. And you guys are helping. What I would say is you guys are helping because I got super chats from Fast and Bulbous, Lawson Harrison, a membership from Christian Valeris, Just Carpet, and Philip Coffey. I got another super chat from Fast and Bulbous, a membership from Andrew Giaconopoulos, and a super chat from Shadow 2 Bravo. So while it might not seem like much because we're just, you know, a 200-person stream, apparently, I think in the long term, dude, if I can entertain 200 people, I can entertain 250 people. If I can entertain 250 people, I can entertain 500 people. If I can entertain 500 people, I can entertain 1,000 people. And once you hit 1,000 people, the money starts getting good, and we can take 10% of our money and we can do good shit with it. We can volunteer, we can do disaster relief, we can do all that cool shit. And hopefully we can have a moderating influence on the schizophrenic apocalyptic death cults of Twitch and YouTube politics. Shadow 2 Bravo for $5 says Pisco will hold the Adam to you have to vote for either Trump or Kamala, but he'd never hold Hassan to that same standard. I think number one, Shadow 2 Bravo, I think he would. I think he has. And then not just that, but I'm pretty sure Adam Friended bullied Sitch about Sitch abstaining from voting. Talia's a futa based? What? Where did I say that Tally is a futa? What's wrong with you? AKA Badasui says, I honestly don't know why Pisco got so triggered over Adam saying he can't vote for Biden and then coming after Kamala and saying he might vote for Kamala. Because of all the fucking sweeping, bro. I got crazy fucking pissed off at Adam. That because AKA Badasui, it shouldn't be a waff. And then he didn't vote for Kamala. And he was doing all this crazy waffly shit. Like, AKA Badasui, I understand the center-right contrarian position is that, like, oh, yeah, Trump's bad, but Kamala would have been worse. Or maybe we don't know whether or not Kamala would have been worse. But for me, it was obvious. It was obvious a year out from the election. This dude Didn't we do a Trump map? I think we did a Trump map. I can just pull it up. I think it's called like Why Adam Friended is Wrong, or it's called the Trump map. Because I think even as recently as within the past week, he said, oh, I think Kamala could have been worse. So let's take a look at this. With Trump, we had the false elector scheme / trying to overthrow the government in 2020. We're allegedly going to have 14 million preventable deaths from disease due to the closing of USAID with no plan to offset USAID responsibilities to other countries. We're supporting the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and we're trying to turn it into Atlantic City. We backstab Ukraine, resulting in thousands of deaths. We're doing mass deportations, and we're fucking with the construction industry and agricultural industry that might have price shocks in the next 6 months. In the 80s and 90s, Donald Trump had a best friend who sex trafficked 14-year-old girls and was credibly accused of raping said girls. And Donald Trump either participated in it or he's currently covering up the pedophile ring. He's detaining and deporting people without due process. Him and his cronies are glorifying the torture of detained people in Sukkot and Alligator Alcatraz. That's including Kilmar Abrego Garcia, which you could argue about, oh, he deserves his torture. Okay, I think you're a piece of shit, but whatever. Agree to disagree. Andre Hernandez did not deserve the torture. Ignoring court orders and to restore due process and justice, he's ignoring that. Threatening Greenland, Denmark, and Canada with no discernible benefit. Tariffs against allies, passing on the cost to consumers and pretending it's a win. And then he did a rug pull crypto scam of supporters, followed by the corruption where he's taking billions of dollars. You think Hunter Biden is bad? You think Hunter Biden is bad for taking $11 million over a fucking decade in order to rub elbows with corrupt Chinese politicians, African politicians, and Ukrainian politicians and magnets, business magnets? You think Hunter Biden is bad? Trump and Jared Kushner make Hunter Biden's level of corruption look like piss in the fucking ocean. It's spit in the ocean. I'm a critic of Hunter Biden. Why wouldn't I freak the fuck out over what Trump's doing? It's like, it's a degree of like 1,000. Like Hunter Biden did bad shit. Jared Kushner and Trump have, through crypto and through the sovereign wealth fund with Saudi Arabia, they make Hunter Biden look like a fucking amateur. Then he killed the corruption case against Eric Adams in New York in order to gain a city's compliance with mass deportation operations. So he actually just killed a lawful and legal corruption case for political gain. Kamala Harris wouldn't have done any of that shit. So again, how are these people comparable? How can you sweep for Trump? Infuriating.
They were truly shocked.
I'm just too tired to get mad.
Shocked by the performance in late June of Biden at the debate. 10 months ago, Adam supported the indictments versus Trump, including the election conspiracy indictments, said they were true and correct, and that he didn't think anything was untrue in the indictments. The indictments allege that Trump tried to steal the election. This is the Jack Smith indictment. I'm going to push you on this. You guys must support these indictments, right?
Yes.
Right. Some of them were invalid, but you didn't say what were invalid.
I'm sorry. Let me specify. Don't you support?
Well, hold on. What?
Last Coyote says, did I miss Fuentes versus Hyde? No, that's later on today.
They're not. I think they're true and correct.
Okay, hold on.
I don't think anything is untrue in the indictments.
So Adam supported the indictments that said that Trump tried to steal the election. Okay. But if Trump were successful, Adam said that of course it would be justified to have a civil war if Trump were successful in overturning the election and stealing it from Joe Biden. I want to give Justin what he wants. I want to give Stitch what he wants. I think a civil war would be justified if Trump were successful in any of what he was trying to do. Do you agree with that, Stitch and Adam? Yeah. So I think you agree on that.
I think if Donald Trump successfully overturned the election, that a physical civil war would have probably happened. Yes.
Yeah. No,
actually, I don't know. Wait. Let me back up a second. Even if he did, I'm not even sure. Like if he did, and the
Gen X says, you're going to D.C. with Bonnie and control of police now and National Guard deployed. Trump just declared emergency and said they're taking over everything. Well, good thing I'm a straight white male who appears conservative.
Supreme Court, ruled on it and said, yes, Donald Trump is president, and the military split in half and back to me. I think there would be, massive physical civil war.
Wouldn't you support civil?
I'm 6'4", 250 pounds, and I'm white. Like I'll be all right. If they start detaining all of the gays and all of the progressives and all of the liberals and the Never Trump Republicans, I'll be like, man, I was here. I was criticizing them. I'll be like, no, Trump was amazing. You know, Trump is God. Trump is Bays. Trump is Messiah. You know, like, and then I'll get out of my detention and I'll come back here and I'll keep talking shit on the internet until the republic falls. So,
war to depose Trump if he was successful. And
so good luck being a gay woman in DC, I guess. Like, and I'm joking. I don't think that. So I'm joking. Real talk. I don't think that Trump is going to militarize DC in order to run for a third term or kill his political opponents or I don't think the police are, maybe I'll eat these words. I don't know. I don't think that I'm going to go to a meeting with Francis Fukuyama and Bill Kristol and just through virtue of hanging out with critics of Trump, DC police are going to zip tie me and then throw me into the Potomac and then let me drown the way that Chinese police did to Hong Kong protesters. So I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that Trump is taking over DC as a virtue signal to the Trump base that when it comes to like crime, you know, they call it like a narco tyranny where Democrats allow cities to get so bad that you vote for more public power because the cops aren't doing their job. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's about killing me or Bill Kristol or Francis Fukuyama. You know what I'm saying?
stealing the presidency from Joe Biden?
Yes, if Trump overthrew it through the means that he meant, or the means that he tried to do it.
What he was trying to do.
Voter fraud and all this stuff, yeah.
So we were literally, arguably, a few decisions.
And Adam said, yes, of course, that. And of course, that. If you don't, I'll play back here.
What he was trying to do. Do you agree with that, Stitch Adam?
Yeah, of course.
So I think we agree on
yes, of course, yes. 2 years ago, Adam said lack of confidence in the 2020 election was based on Trump's lies. That obviously.
AKA Batasui says Pisco decided to start a fight with one guy in California and one guy in Florida whose votes probably don't count for much, and neither of them tell their audience to vote for anyone. Yeah, AKA Batasui, but that's fucking cringe. Like, if you view, in number one, Florida used to be a swing state, and I'm pretty sure it was close in this election, even though it swung for Trump. And then with California, like it's the principle of the matter, and Sitch and Adam do get 1,100 live, 1,500 live, which is, I know they're like, oh, we're just small beans. Only 30,000 people watch our post-recorded VODs. We're just small beans. We only get 1,100 live. We're not going to affect the outcome of the election. You either believe that you have impact on the world or you don't. So stand on fucking business. So if you're going to be like this clip said with Adam, where he's like, yeah, if Trump stole the election, we should have a civil war. We should pick up guns and fight each other in the streets over the future of the republic. If you think the subject matter is that serious, stop being such a fucking pussy. Share your opinion. Defend your opinion. It's that fucking simple. So I don't accept the I'm a small bean argument. I really don't. Shadow 2 Bravo says, by the way, this chat is so much better without LB and all their bullshit. Well, LB does trigger the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna lie. LB will say some wild shit and she'll successfully one guy me for like 10 minutes at a time. Astronaut Farmer says, Connor, you should seriously check out the speech from the AI Metal Gear Solid 2. It was released in 2001, but it's very prescient nowadays. Trust me, bro. Maybe later, bro. Not today. You said Tally had balls? Oh, Tally Bots has balls, so she's a futa. Got it. For those of you who don't know, a futanari is not a trans person. It's a woman who looks like a woman, looks like a assigned female at birth woman, but in pornographic scenarios, they give her male genitals. It's very popular in some spaces. Andy B says, Illinois is so gerrymandered that Republicans would have to win about 70% of the state vote to get a slim majority of the state politics. Okay. Yup.
Trump did something pretty crazy shit to hang on to power. He said that he was definitely persuaded by the January 6th hearings not to vote for Trump.
Trump not being or not conceding or not actually losing the election had nothing to do with that. It has to do with what the hearings are actually about, this is all about a couple of things.
Zero Fuck says, I'll answer why. NGOs acting at the behest of governments without being beholden to the same legal restrictions of governments is a giant security flaw, leaving them open to corruption. Well, Zero Fucks, but I would say is PEPFAR as an example, I know that it's become like a partisan issue recently, but we passed PEPFAR, I think in like 2001 or 2003, as a bipartisan NGO. And the whole point of it is just to save people who have AIDS. So like, is that a problem? Is that like, too far left? Zero Fuck says, as for who, here are the top of my mind when it comes to YouTube content. Adam Kriegler getting suspended for C19, COVID-19 misinfo for videos 9 months prior. Same with Mr. Noor. What, like Rob Noor? I mean, okay, so I need to parse this out real quick. I don't agree with the censorious nature of social media in 2019, in 2020, in 2021. Like, I think that you should be able to be racist on the internet. I don't, plenty of people are fucking racist. Being racist on the internet lets them kind of get it out of their system, and it lets schizophrenics congregate away from civil society. However, I do understand brand sensitivity issues. And then I also understand the part that like 1.1 million people died from COVID. This is like the one thing about COVID that you will never be able to it would be very hard to change my mind on this. So everybody, not everybody on the right, but a lot of COVID skeptics talk about like, oh, well, COVID wasn't that bad. The projected mortality was only 1%, blah, 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 blah. But effectively for 2021 and 2022, so from March 2020 to February 2022, there were 1,134,364 excess deaths in the United States. So even if we had a bad flu year is like 150,000, whereas like a good flu year is like 30,000 or 50,000. So take out 100,000 of these deaths. Then add in like the categorization issues where they had somebody who had COVID, but they got shot. So in the database, they misattributed his death to getting shot. Well, excess deaths say, here's where we expect deaths to be. Here's where deaths are. And so even if we eliminated 134,000 people, just saying that like there's noise in the signal, that's still 1 million people dead. That's a fuckload of people, dude. We launched a multi-trillion-dollar war for 3,000 people dying in 9/11. And you're saying like, and conservatives are like 1 million people dead is no fucking big deal. That's crazy pants. And then the other thing with COVID is, give me a second. So COVID deaths from the disease. COVID mortality rate. So the COVID mortality rate, I think there's an AI summary. And you're just gonna have to take my word for it. The mortality rate across all ages was 1%. Okay. And then when you look at the VAERS data from 2020 to 2022, 8,000 deaths were reported due to possible COVID, COVID infection. 8,000, whereas half the country got vaccinated. So if you have half of the country, which is like 150 million, and you have 8,000 people die on VAERS that were reported as maybe dying due to COVID, and not all of them died due to COVID vaccination, right? But they were reported as potentially dying from COVID vaccination. That's 5.33 e to the negative 5. So isn't that like 0.1234 It's like fucking nothing, dude. And so the whole point that I'm trying to give to you is that like, if you were saying, oh, don't get the vaccine's going to kill you. It gives you pulmonary embolisms and it gives you myocarditis and pericarditis and you're going to have weird blood clots and all that kind of bullshit. You weren't wrong that was possible, but the disease was like 500 times more lethal than the vaccine. So you're kind of fucking stupid. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I look forward to your response in chat. I'll read it in a bit.
Is that Trump's to blame for this?
Mhm.
Period. Full stop. Because 70% of Republicans and 35%.
If Kamala was president, we'd all be banned on Twitter, and that's objectively worse. We could all go to Truth Social, bro. We could all go to Truth Social, bro. You could say the N-word on Truth Social. You can say the N-word on Kick. Zero Fuck says, being punished for stuff that was within the rules at the time is not cool. If it violates some change to the TOS, simply remove and nullify the content, but don't ban them. Yeah, but Zero Fucks, this is like, you know, I'm asking you for, you know, kind of like an example. And you gave me an example, so I'm not trying to be a dick about it. But you're like, this guy got punished on social media for spreading COVID misinfo, but he was actually sharing his earnestly held opinion a year before the COVID vaccine went out. You know, that sucks. But I'm not starting a revolution over it. I'm not voting for Trump because of that. I'll tell you that. Le Plahom says, Trump's at least selling U.S. weapons for Ukraine better than some Dem admins in the past. What? No. What are you talking about? Anyways. Okay, just chilling real quick. I'm going to get off of my COVID bullshit because I'm too tired to fight you guys today. Like the stream. Share it with your friends. If you have a good time, come back tomorrow. Super chats if you got them. Memberships if you got them. Thank you for being here. I think we've had 4 people donate memberships so far, and we were at 13 memberships away from 100. So please continue to super chat and gift memberships, and let's see if we can get 10 more memberships by the end of stream. 9 or 10 more memberships by the end of stream. I'm sure Philip, our back end guy, would be fucking ecstatic if we had 100 memberships flat.
Independents still don't, to this day, believe that Trump lost the election.
Based on Trump's lies.
Well, hold on. Here's my point about this, guys. Is that so covering the January 6th hearings, like people should understand and believe it, it doesn't matter. That's what that says. This is like 2 years old kind of stuff. This is a dog and pony show.
I mean, the point of the hearings is to hurt Trump's chances of winning to run again.
Oh, Le Plahom says, Hunter worked for a top lieutenant of Putin ally Yanukovych at Burisma while his father's admin refused to send Ukraine U.S. arms to enable it to defend itself against the already begun Putinist invasion after both Obama and Biden disarmed Ukraine over decades. You're a joke. Number one, Le Plahom, I'm going to say that's the kind of shitty verbiage. You could have shared everything besides you're a joke and you would have been Gucci. But I'm going to give you one warning. Feel free to criticize me. Feel free to challenge me on my worldviews. I don't give a shit. But if you're a little bitch in my chat, I'm going to ban you. This is my safe space. This is my hug box. This is where I come to chill with my chat. So if you're a little fucking bitch in my chat, you're going to get banned. Matter of fact, fuck you. I'm going to give you a timeout. How about that shit? Enjoy your timeout, bitch. If you're rude again, I'm going to ban you. Did Obama give Ukraine weapons? Ukraine to get more USAID, but not weapons. Obama refuses to budge on lethal aid despite Poroshenko's passionate plea in Congress. Okay. Obama's bad. What do you want me to say? Bad Obama. Bad Obama. Bad Biden. All right.
Well, I think it's actually a bigger deal than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it is, and it goes back to what you guys were watching on the video, which was you have the voting blocks, all right? And you have elite voting blocks, and then you have the rest of us plebs. I think this is the way for the elite voting blocks to say, don't you ever, ever, ever again vote for someone like Trump. Because if you do, we're going to do this all over again.
Absolutely.
I think you're reading into it too much. I think it's mostly just the Democrats want to take their chance to drag Trump as much as they can when they have the power and ability to do so via hearings.
How is this information not useful, though? Obviously, Trump did do some pretty crazy shit to try to hang on to power.
Well, yeah, but my point is you're not convincing any of the electorate to swing any other way that they already have it gone.
Yes, you
I
are.
disagree with that.
I think you are.
You think this is persuasive?
I think it's very persuasive for moderates. I mean, I'm definitely.
AKA Badasui says, it's not sweeping, it's telling people they have their own vote. Yeah, but what if their vote sucks? What about that, AKA Badasui? What if they're fucking stupid? See, I'm a Republican. I believe in a republic. representative democracy. I'm an elitist. I think the average person is quite dumb. So I don't think people should have their own vote. I think that elites should passionately, earnest elites, not lying alt media manipulative dirtbags, but actually like earnest people who are smart, who care about technology and politics and the future of the country and all that kind of stuff. I think that they should do a ton of research on, thank you, baby, on how the world works. They should communicate that to the plebeian masses. And then they should tell the plebeian masses, based off of the information that I have hopefully earnestly researched and communicated to you, you should vote this way. Or else I think you're a poopy pants nincompoop stupid head. I think that if you're going to be a political commentator, you should have some fucking balls and say what you think is right and encourage other people to view the world similarly to you. And I view the rest as fucking intellectual and moral cowardice. But that's because I'm a Republican in a philosophical sense. Fatsimo says Hunter made 1.5 million off of his paintings. Guy is a genius. Did Lonerbox video ever cover the Hayden Fuentes video? No idea. Deltron says probably the best one-to-one comparison to Hunter is Manafort, who was cozy with Yanukovych and isn't even close. Hunter paid his back taxes plus fees. Manafort needed the pardon for other reasons. Deltron, you must have missed the other streams. Hunter didn't pay his fucking back taxes. One of his daddy's fucking friends paid his back taxes. It's just corruption by another name. Democrats, you guys are sore winners. It's so annoying to come out here and say, hey, Hunter Biden took $11 million over the course of a decade from corrupt foreign officials and laundered it back into his family, and he was charged with 3 tax evasion felonies, 6 tax misdemeanors, 3 tax evasion felonies went past the statute of limitations due to a sympathetic Department of Justice. And he did hard drugs and banged whores and got his brother's widow hooked to methamphetamine. And he complained about being the workhorse of the family to launder millions of dollars into his family. He openly complained about that in text message. But Jared Kushner running a $2 billion sovereign wealth fund from Saudi Arabia after he negotiated the Abraham Accords is such an obvious, egregious conflict of interest that it makes Hunter Biden's corruption pale in comparison. That Trump's crypto rug pull, along with foreign countries giving billions of dollars to the United States via Trump's crypto in order to get concessions, makes the Clinton Foundation look like fucking child's play. I'm accurately describing reality, and you guys are sore winners. You want me to say that Hunter Biden is fucking good? He's not. He's a corrupt piece of shit. He's just on a matter of scale, a small bean compared to Trump. God. Just take a fucking W and walk away. Jesus Christ. Gen X is cute that Connor doesn't think Palantir already has him on a target list. Listen, bro, I'm going to be Palantir's ¡1 salesman next year. Sen Patty says, I'm calling the hotline and telling them about the Never Trump Guy stream intro. Deltron says, Hunter was not part of Biden's campaign, whereas Manafort was a key figure of the 2016. Okay, cool. Truzal says, don't think I'd call Hyde versus Fuentes. They kind of just talk for a while about your standard alt-right points. Hyde censoring out his bald spot got a laugh out of me, though. Based. All right. You already eaten plenty, bro? I don't know if that's me calling me fat or if that's saying that I'm already doing good as a streamer. I don't know what the fuck you're saying.
Jan 6 hearings were persuasive for moderates.
Only persuaded. I saw Daniel
I'm definitely persuaded.
In the comments saying he was a giant Trump supporter. I was never a giant Trump supporter, but he said, he was a Trump supporter, and what he's saying would convince him never to vote for Trump again. And a bunch of people upvoted that comment. So I know people are being affected by this. Like, Trump comes off as delusional and not leader material after these hearings. Like, I don't know how you can look at Trump and think what he was doing was sane or intelligent after what we're seeing from the people around him.
So
AKA Badasui says, Adam in such a shtick as being pro free will. The audience is the free will seekers, so there's going to be pushback to anyone trying to push the audience either way. Cowards. Moral cowardice. I know that's their shtick. I'm just talking shit, but cowardice.
Adam says that Trump was lying. A lying is an intentional, volitional mistruth, right? Like it's a knowing and intentional false statement. That's what a lie is. Trump was lying about the results of the 2020 election, and then he tried to do some pretty crazy shit to hang on to power. That's Donald Trump, someone who, by the way, if he were successful in that effort, Adam said that it would be justified in starting a civil war to overturn the election, the stolen election, right? From Trump, remember? That he supports the indictments. Let's go further on the statement.
Or again, which is, this is January 6th riots were Trump's fault. January 6th were Trump's fault. That's the main plug. I don't think it has anything to do with that. The first half, I think, is just fodder for the Democrat Party to see, we told you.
How are they not? How are they not his fault if he's the one?
How are they not Trump's fault? How are the
Why do y'all even know about Futanari's? Listen, bro. I've been on the internet. I know what's up.
January 6th riots, insurrection, not his fault?
If all of his people are coming to him and saying, look, we've looked into.
Kay says, you're 6'4". Yeah, I'm 6'4", 230 pounds. I could beat the shit out of your streamer. I may not be your favorite streamer. I might be your waiting room, but I could beat the shit out of your other streamer. It's like the dad meme. Like my dad could beat up your dad. Your favorite morning streamer could beat up your favorite afternoon streamer, for sure.
All of these fraud allegations here, and we can't find any evidence that there's enough fraud to overturn the election. And Trump continues to go out there and tell people that there is enough fraud to overturn the election, and the Justice Department is out to lunch, he says, not even looking for it. How is that not his fault? How did he not convince 30% of his supporters that he actually won the election?
Message, which is also, they've said blatantly over and over.
So here he's blaming Trump specifically on the insurrection that occurred.
Like the coup / strategy stuff. Well, we can move on to like the coup / strategy stuff. I've watched the entire, well, I guess I only watched half of the Trump. I saw the highlights of the Trump thing, and I tried to get through the entire Trump speech beforehand.
Dude, yeah, some of you guys are Connor height and weight disbelievers. You're height and weight disbelievers. You doubt. You accuse me of lying about my height and weight, but I want to show you something super fucking funny. Destiny streamer Counterpoints. So
outflanking them on the left now. They were I think Kyle
weak moderate Democrat. So I want you to look how much of the space I occupy compared to Destiny, okay? And I'm not trying to dog Destiny, but look at Destiny. He's like half of the chair. You know, his torso is the size of the bush. Look at, we're in the same space, okay? I am 2/3 of the chair. I am barely contained by the chair. Do not doubt. Do not doubt, brothers and sisters. I am not lying about my height and weight. Do not doubt.
But I mean, Trump, talk about, disobeying Jordan Peterson's rule, be precise in your speech. I mean, there's so many fucking mixed messages going on there. So, I mean, I don't like, it's hard for me not to say that this wasn't a literal coup attempt. Like, and this is the thing. Just
so you would wait. Are you saying that you're saying what is a coup attempt exactly?
I'm saying that Trump is basically trying to overturn the election through political force, through a mob. Yeah, I don't know how you. This is the thing that fucking triggered the fuck out of me about Scott Adams, because Scott Adams for months and months and months has been calling the Trump impeachment a coup attempt, which I have some sympathy for. You think Trump was legally should have been impeached? I disagree with you, and I think there is something to be said for like impeaching a president under trumped up charges. I think you could conceptualize that as a coup attempt. So Scott Adams has been doing that for months and months and months. And then literally Trump stands up and gives this speech with mixed messages all over the place. And I mean, I started watching, I tried to get through all of the speeches. The first guy that steps up is even worse. Like he's basically talking about, fighting and taking our country back. It seems like,
I believe that's John Eastman or Giuliani.
They're setting up, we're going to march down there and crack some heads unless they decide this thing in our direction. How do you not call it a coup attempt? But Scott Adams is on his podcast, like totally downplaying the idea that this was a coup. I'm like, dude, if you're going to say impeachment is a coup, I don't know how. I mean, there are levels of the situation going on here. And I just made the mistake
of believing everything that Adam believed January 20th or March 30th or whenever the January 6th hearings were. Okay, so this is after the hearings. Whenever the hearings are, I'm just guilty of believing that earnestly. That's what I'm guilty of. Adam gave me so much fucking shit for being hired by PV in order to work with them to give them consultation on, you know, conservative and Republican perspectives and a way to refine their rhetoric to be appealing to people outside of their hug box. And I think I'm capable of doing that job. I think I did a good job of that. And so he gave me so much shit for getting paid as an alt media political consultant for a Democratic PAC. But the reason why I did that is everything that Adam Friended just articulated. So why the fuck would I be a hypocrite when all that happened was I responded to everything that Adam believed in 2021 or 2022, and I just happened to carry that belief forward? Why did Adam philosophically or politically regress from his perspective in 2021 and 2022? Why did he flip backwards?
Would place impeachment several levels back behind standing up and inciting a mob. The touch
That he incited a mob.
Captain Nemo says the COVID numbers are all fake. Checkmate. Damn, I got fucking owned.
That he's doing a literal coup attempt.
of Trump being behind bulletproof glass the entire time he is giving the speech is, I mean, how can you like?
Oh, Andy B, we have a spike in measles outbreaks in Texas, but do you know who's really doing the overwhelming measles outbreaks? It's Mexicans, right? It's not all the Maha moms that we see on Facebook every day talking about how they're pure bloods and clean bloods. It's not them. It's the Mexicans. The Mexicans are the ones who are responsible for the measles outbreaks. Thanks, Andy B. I appreciate that detail. I'll be sure to amend my worldview that it's not the Maha pure blood freaks that I see on social media all the time who are remaining unvaxxed. It's actually undocumented people. Got it. Once again, Central Americans ruining America through their cheap labor and measles.
As a master persuader that Scott Adams claims himself to be, how can you not point out the fact that the motherfucker is behind bulletproof glass? None of the other speakers were behind bulletproof glass. Why is Trump behind bulletproof glass? Tell me. What is the point? What is the point of being behind bulletproof glass? He doesn't want to get shot
by any crazy Antifa that was secretly in the mob.
Does he not know that he's like pushing people's buttons? Does he not know that he's inciting people's moral passions? Like, obviously Trump, and this is another thing about it, I'm going off a little bit here, but Scott Adams has been telling us for 4 years about how Trump understands psychology and he's the master persuader and stuff like this. Has he not read anything on mob psychology? Does he not understand like how this is going to turn out? I mean, it seemed patently obvious to most people.
It's patently obvious that he's inciting the mob, patently obvious that he has some knowledge of the crowd and what their emotions were, that this was an attempt to do a literal coup through political force, through a mob. And I ended by saying these are Adam's words. He supported the indictments. He denounced the coup. He blamed Trump for January 6th. He said he didn't want a second Trump term. And now the political winds have changed, as has Adam's tune. So yes, Adam, actually your audience does deserve an explanation. This is me basically saying to Adam, like, what changed? What changed in your calculation that before you are basically calling this guy, denouncing this guy, Trump, as unelectable, as doing one of the worst crimes by a president, trying to do a violent coup, that you support him being charged and convicted of these crimes that have like penalties 20 plus years in prison, of trying to literally steal the election through the use of force. We're talking about like March to Rome, beer hall putsch, fucking coup d'etat, like literal coup. That's what you think it is. And for you all of a sudden to say, okay, well, Biden is clearly not fit for office, to not give the Trump side of it, of why you would vote for this guy and not to show us your analysis, that is snaky as fuck. It's not showing your work. And now when you push Adam on this, he does this shit that a lot of these fucking political contributors do. These neutral observers. These kinds of sometimes it's the comedian class who try to pretend, oh, I'm not a politician, I don't have to give you my opinion. What they'll do is, I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you guys my opinion. You guys have done X, Y, Z. I don't owe you an explanation to.
I'm going to go ahead and cut ahead of Pisco right now. I think if you're a political commentator, but you're unwilling to provide your rationale for your beliefs, I think you're a fucking pussy. I'm just going to say it like it is, dude. So there are a variety of beliefs that I have. Okay. Let's pull up the Republican map real quick. If somebody says, hey, Connor, what's your perspective on abortion? I'll articulate it for you. What's your perspective on family, achievement in academics? What's your perspective on gay people? What's your perspective on like fiscal responsibility and in the federal budget and what services the federal government should provide to the American people? What's your perspective on like militarism or republicanism or democracy or interventionism overseas? What's your perspective on Central American immigration or taxing? Now, I might say that if you ask me that on Twitter, then I might say like, hey, bro, I'm live 5 hours a week or 5 hours a day, excuse me. Just come to my chat, ask me, I'll give you like a 10-minute rant because I don't want to sit there like typing out a fucking thesis paper on Twitter. That's annoying as shit. But I'm not going to hide my beliefs. And if you challenge me so much where you're like, hey, I want to debate you on this because I think your perspective actually fucking sucks, then I'll be like, okay, we might not agree at the end of it, but I'll at least allow you to challenge me on my preconceptions about the world, right? And that's one of the things that I felt like Adam was such a fucking bitch about leading up to this, leading up to the election, where he was like, I don't have to tell you anything. And he did that shit to me too. I noticed Hutch, Pisco, the Live and Learn guys challenging Adam on Twitter, and very politely, I watched a 5-minute clip of Adam talking about why he would potentially vote for Trump. And then I said like, hey man, I'm trying to understand this perspective. And then I articulated his perspective back to him as accurately as I felt possible. And he said, fuck you, watch my stream. It's like, fuck you, you fucking pussy. How about you just own your shit? How about that shit? How about you stand on fucking business? If you're a political commentator, you should be able to back your opinions. And if you don't, I think you're weak. Obama's bad. What do you want me to say? True. Gazbaz says Connor's on his Caligula arc. Nah. We'd have moon colonies by now if Romney had just won in 12. True. General So says, I wish it was persuasive, but Americans could not care less about January 6th. Yeah, which is kind of wild. Kind of wild that you can literally try to usurp the entire Republican process and it just gets swept away as like, well, you know, both sides are bad. Anyways, I need to use the restroom. AF Racing says too many political commentators have farts where their brain should be. True. Zero Fucks says on my way to the gym. That's how I know he's based. Zero Fucks, I don't know if he's still around or if he's still listening, but Zero Fucks, I think, now I could be wrong, but I think he's too far down the contrarian right, where like, to me, I think I'd just say that the Democrats are the lesser of two evils, and I don't know if he would agree with me, and we could fight viciously on that. But the fact that his shit posting on Twitter game is so fucking hard, and he goes to the gym routinely, that's based. Cise Puede says VAERS is literally the rawest of data, so using it as evidence for anything isn't great. But yeah, Cise Puede, my numbers include all of the raw data. From 2021 to 2022, 8,000 vaccine-related deaths were reported. And by the way, they weren't investigated. So that it might not even be 8,000. It could be 3,000. It could be 2,000. It could be 100. I don't even know. But even if we presumed that every vaccine-related death was related to COVID, we would still come up with the disease being 500 times more lethal than the vaccination. So that's where, for me, like the whole the clot shot depopulation 5G is going to activate nanites in your bloodstream that's going to kill you so rich people can inherit the earth while all the poor people die. That was disproven by the stats. Le Plérome says, Zell was elected as a Russophilic dove and indeed failed to prepare the country for the full-scale invasion, but since that happened, he had good sense to ally with the Ukrainian national movement. Interesting. Cal says, did the Clinton Foundation do as bad, worse than the crypto scam? They did pretty bad shit. They funneled in like billions of dollars to charitable organizations. But as far as I know, the Clintons took like a nominal salary compared to what the Trump family has taken in. I think Chelsea Clinton had like $500,000 a year, which I would view as kind of like borderline criminal and corrupt. But is $500,000 a year to run a multi-billion-dollar nonprofit, is that proportional? I think it is. I think $500,000, if you're in charge of billions of dollars, I think getting paid $500,000 a year is proportional. And then is that proportional to Jared Kushner running a $2 billion sovereign wealth fund that is going to ultimately probably make him a billionaire? I think just as a matter of scale, the Trumps just totally dwarf the Clintons. Bass and Bulbous for 5 says, I give Hunter a pass because a white guy smoking crack is endearing, like a white guy playing cornerback in the NFL. Fashion 40 became a new member. We need 9 more memberships. I'm going to leave you in the comfort of Pisco. I need to use the restroom. Oh, shit, I just broke my mic. I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Let me do that, I guess.
Reconcile my views. And of course, they'll never invite you to challenge their own views. Sitch and Adam only ever invite people on to try to like grill them on their views. And if you try to press them on their view, they'll quickly take it personal. Adam will start moping and groaning like a little baby. It'll never actually be a contested fight of different perspectives where he's opening himself up to scrutiny in that way. So this is me highlighting an apparent contradiction or a possible contradiction, one where you could reconcile. You could say, notwithstanding the fact that I think Trump should be in prison for trying to steal the election, that Trump is personally responsible for inciting and trying to implement a physical coup, a literal physical coup. Those are his words. That's his interpretation. Notwithstanding that, I still think that he is just as unfit or more fit for office than Joe Biden, or I would vote for him over Joe Biden because blah, 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 blah. You can fill in the blanks. You were so worried about a Trump presidency before, or apparently worried. And before, you've also stated that it's the responsibility of people to vote for either the Democrat or the Republican, that it's kind of a cop-out to sit out the election or to not vote. And so you do, I think, have an obligation to your audience as a political commentator. If you're opening yourself up, if you're already offering your views on Biden's fitness, why wouldn't you offer your views on Trump's fitness? Why wouldn't you do that unless you were maybe not neutral, unless you were maybe trying to hide your views from your audience, unless you were maybe trying to cater to one audience versus another audience? I think this is a totally legitimate thing to bring up. Why would it be illegitimate for me to bring up these tweets, for me to pull up these clips that took like 2 seconds to find? Why would that be wrong in the context of an election to get a commentator that a lot of people know, that some people respect, I guess, I don't know why, and to challenge them on their views? Why would that be wrong, actually? Adam took it very personally and blocked me. And what's the basis for the block? I tried to ask him when they invited me on, actually, not to interrogate the view, where they were like, we were friends. And I'm trying to like be like, hey guys, can we get over this? I understand you guys, you feel a certain way about this, but like, let's talk it out. And he couldn't get over it. And the basis, basically, he's accusing me of being deceptive in this collection of clips. What's the deception, actually? They have yet to point to a single lie that I have ever told about them. And I pushed them hard. Point to a lie, point to anything deceptive. There is nothing deceptive about this tweet thread, and we're going to go to the next one as well.
Dude, I hope you guys can hear me. This is one of the things that actually really pissed me off about that. Do you guys remember when Sitch and Adam had that like little bitch fight where Tom Foolery was on the show and they were talking about something? I forget what they were talking about, but oh yeah. I think they were talking about the word fascism and whether or not like Trump was fascist. And so tomfoolery brought up a historical analog to Nazi Germany. And Adam was like, oh, I think that's bad faith. And it's like, dude, if we're talking about fascism, why wouldn't one of the greatest historical examples of fascism be a relevant data point to bring up? And so Adam and Sitch actually fought, and Sitch was like, dude, that's not bad faith. That's like a perfectly reasonable thing to say. And then Adam threw a fit and left. And for me, it's like, if I'm lying about you, if I'm getting something incorrect, if I'm misrepresenting you, you better be able to articulate it. Otherwise, I think you're a bitch. Right? Is that fair? I think that's fair. West Coast Girl says, can't believe Connor keeps taking the Hunter rage bait every stream. It's like one of those lab rats who keeps pulling the same button to get a mild electric shock. Well, you're telling me that my behavior doesn't make sense, but you're not telling me I'm wrong. And the facts are on my side. You guys sweeping for crack cocaine and fucking banging your dead brother's wife and fucking funneling millions of dollars into your family and tax evading and then somebody getting charged with crimes. I think it's just like it's just not factual. So you guys can just keep sweeping for shit that doesn't make sense, but whatever.
I've provided. All it shows you is that you're a big baby. That when you're called on an apparent contradiction about...
AF Racing says, let's go to the tapes. No one asked you to think Hunter is good. We just said he's not bad enough to be relevant or worthy of ultra ass pained. Nah, fuck you guys. We shouldn't tolerate corruption at all from our public officials. And if we weren't talking about Hunter, we should talk about the Clinton Foundation. And if we're not talking about the Clinton Foundation, we should talk about speaking fees. And if we're not talking about speaking fees, we should talk about insider trading. And if we're not talking about insider trading, then we should talk about term limits. You guys are like way too tolerant of corruption. It actually really pisses me the fuck off. Big in Gaming says Trump takes everything to an 11 and people will defend others doing stuff that is a 5. Yeah. Even if I said Trump is a 20 and Hunter is a 3, I still have people fighting me in my chat. It's so fucking annoying, dude. Like, just again, I don't even know if the sore winning comment was relevant to Hunter, but stop being a sore winner. You won. Trump's worse by a factor of 1,000. You guys are so fucking annoying. I mean, I love you, but holy shit. Fashion 40 says, pushing my expenses, but you've made my mornings since the MIB combo worth it. And chat, wait. Fashion 40 says, I'm pushing my expenses, but you've made my mornings since the MIB convo worth it. And chat, even LB keep me going. Well, good, Fashion 40. I'm happy that we can help. Le Plerom says, Hunter was hired by Burisma in Moscow. His partner was hired just a bit prior as Russia invaded Crimea. Le Plerom, you're like the one Wignat that I know that's pro-Ukraine, but I'm pro-Ukraine too. So like you can yell at me for being insufficiently pro-Ukraine, but it's probably something we substantively agree with. Although I have a feeling that you're probably like pro-Ukraine in a way that makes everybody else uncomfortable. You're like, Azov Battalion being Nazis is based, actually. Death Lily says, the corruption problem is it's yelling into the void. Being right on the subject doesn't do anything, except for it makes me feel better about my life, because I'm right and you're wrong. Le Plerom says, everyone else was screaming that Russia was going to invade. Mearsheimer even prophesized as a younger man that if Ukraine wasn't invited in the nuclear armed club, Russia would invade. Cool. Starhawks $5. Watch your Warhammer TV breakdowns on your 40K channel while painting some guardsmen this past weekend. It was a good time. Thanks, Starhawks. Thanks for the donation. I do appreciate it. And then I'm just checking the stuff. Ooh, Deus Halcyon and Fashion 40 became members. So that means that's another 6. So we're down to 4 memberships in order to break 100. 4 more memberships. Does Connor know about hyperinflation? Not yet. Anyways, let's continue. Gazbaz says Queeman lives in fear of meeting Connor. True. Queeman is going to rue the day that I go to European TwitchCon. I will find Queeman at European TwitchCon, and I will just stay. I won't eat him. I won't beat him. I won't assault him. I won't eat him. However, I will stand next to him and somebody will take a picture.
The political topic of the day, who to fucking vote for president, that instead of addressing it and saying, this is why I'm consistent, you block me. You block me, you block everyone. He blocked Hutch because of this. I think he blocked Josiah on the basis of this too. Because when people held him to account and said, hey, this is your tweet about Biden, where's your tweet about Trump? Why don't you be consistent? Instead of engaging, he's like, oh, you guys have no right. You have no right to call me out on that. You have no right. It's my view. I don't need to do anything for you. Bro, you're on Twitter.
Yeah, phrasing you, bitch. So, oh, we believe the wait part. Don't get it twisted. Ah, you rude bitch. I got owned by my own chat again.
You're on a platform where the main thing is communication and response. There are things called retweets and quote tweets for a fucking reason. That reason is it's interactive. It's social media. And the guy's so much of a baby that he blocks and blacklists 3 out of 4 members of Live and Learn who are just kind of poking and be like, hey, we want to maintain our republic here. This guy's a
John Kennedy says, when we did the range day in Florida, I was definitely surprised how big of a bastard you were. Yeah. Nightgale Wing says, how rare do you think 6'4" is? Like, it's not like Connor is a Norse giant or something. I mean, it's pretty rare. I'm oftentimes the tallest person in the room. If there is somebody taller than me in any room, I notice them immediately because I'm oftentimes the tallest person in the room.
Right. And by the way, everything that we've worn has been vindicated tenfold in terms of this administration. And so we'll get to that in a bit about what the results of this administration have been. But failing to give your analysis, failing to explain why it is that you see this election differently and now why you would prefer Trump over the Democratic nominee, and this is pre-Biden dropping out, I think is a
The devil brings up an interesting point, which is contrarian centrists never want to be on the losing side. I know. Yeah. That's I think somebody pointed that out during the stream, was that oftentimes with contrarians, it's about pointing out some kind of injustice where a team is losing or winning. But like, so for instance, like the anti-SJW movement, there was no way you were going to lose with that. Like, even if progressives and liberals had some underlying point that could be steelmanned, they're so fucking annoying that there was no way you were going to lose with the anti-SJW stuff. And then with the Trump stuff, I think interestingly enough, with the contrarian right or whatever, it's still just about owning the libs. So even if they lose, even if Trump lost the general election, they would still win because they wouldn't be with those woke, loud, annoying progressives. So I don't know if it's necessarily about winning. I think it's kind of about like not being cringe. But then caring so much about cringe also makes you cringe. It's weird. Like, I find people who care so much about being cringe that they'll take a dog shit position. I find that cringe. Weird. I don't know what to do with that. That fucks my brain. I don't know what to do with that. Andy B says, correct. People from my unit were down in Texas in 23 building shelters for asylum seekers. They had 4 confirmed cases of TB and 3 cases of polio at the border. These are extremely impoverished people. Weird. All right.
Service, and it calls into question your bona fides as a commentator, as a neutral commentator. Sitch, at a bare minimum, says that if he were to vote, he would vote for the Democratic nominee. Sitch did say that. Now, I wonder why that doesn't undermine his quote-unquote credibility any more than the actual vote itself. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so you're willing to signal who you think is a better person to vote for? That is the Democratic candidate.
AKA Badasui says, Connor hasn't stopped yet, so yeah, it's going to keep going. Calling someone a pussy isn't acting respectfully. Well, I didn't open with that, AKA Badasui. I didn't go, hey, Adam, you pussy, own a perspective. He was a pussy on the internet. I got a bad taste in my mouth. Him and fucking Sitch invited, I don't know the exact line of events, but they invited me onto the show so they could fucking grill me about working for PV. And then I called Adam a fucking coward for 2 hours. Which, by the way, I could play nice. because Adam made it a point to say that I was not banned from the show. So if Adam wants to address, because I'm pretty sure recently on Twitter, he said like, oh, well, I don't know if Kamala would have been better or worse. I just want him to read this. Just read this on stream. Like, we don't even have to fight. Can you explain this to me? Can you explain how, like, the false elector scheme and overthrowing the government should have been a disqualifier instantaneously? But look at this. Like 14 million people projected dead from USAID, the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, backstabbing Ukraine, mass deportations, fucking doing price shocks in construction and agriculture, sweeping for a pedophile ring, if not being a pedophile yourself, detaining and deporting people without due process, glorifying the torture of people in Alligator Alcatraz and Saqqat, including Kilmar Abrego Garcia and Andre Hernandez, ignoring court orders to restore due process and justice, threatening our allies, tariffing our allies, rug pull with the crypto scam, making Hunter Biden look like fucking small potatoes. How do you defend any of this shit? How do you defend any of this shit and say that you're a liberal who cares about maximal human freedom or a Republican who cares about due process in a republic? I don't know how you sweep for any of this shit, because I don't think Kamala or Biden, even if Biden was a geriatric demented fuck and the entire country was being run by a Democratic cabinet, I don't think any of this shit would have happened under a demented Biden administration or a Kamala Harris administration. So, I mean, dude, just explain it to me. We don't have to get passionate. We don't have to get angry. I don't have to call you, you know, the R slur. Just explain this to me. Explain to me how this is okay and how it's the same or worse than Kamala Harris. That's all I need. And if he does a good explanation, we can be friends. And if he does a terrible explanation, I'm probably going to continue to being mean. Just is what it is, bro. It is what it is. Like, I really try to be nice to people as much as possible until I can't. And in this regard, I can't.
Canada, this is for Sitch. But you're not willing to vote for that? Like, you've already, the cat's out of the bag, isn't it, dude? You've already signaled which way is your preference. And if you remember, around this time, he was ultra super duper sensitive when Sitch pushed back at all. And there was a little bit of a hissy fit that Adam put on one time. Like, I think Sitch pushed.
Bud123 asked an important question. Should my goal when consistently going to the gym and working out is to get better muscle definition or to gain weight? Going to the gym consistently for over a month got me better definition. Yeah, dude, you just got to be healthier, man. Dude, I think that a fitness routine, I don't even think, I'm an old man, okay? Remember, I'm like almost 40 and I look like I'm 60. So you should take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I think a fitness routine should primarily be about maintaining a fitness routine. Because the truth is that if you go to the gym super hardcore, you gain 20 pounds of muscle after 6 months, but then you quit forever, that's not good. And same thing with, I'm trying to think of what else, like just getting better muscle definition. Let's say you get shredded. You're like Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man levels of fucking shredded, but then you quit because the workouts are so intense you don't want to do them anymore and you take a decade off. That's probably, even though you're in like peak shape for 6 months, that's probably less healthy than having like a normal routine that you're able to do weekly for like decades. And so my little cringe routine of doing dumbbells and just doing 3 back exercises, 3 bicep exercises, one day, chest and tris, 3 chest exercises, 3 tricep exercises another day, 3 shoulders, 3 forearms another day, and then a legs day. I've been doing that for like 2 years now. And I'm not like super in shape. If I had to do cardio, a fucking toddler could beat my fucking ass cardio wise. But I could definitely beat the shit out of a toddler / Queeman / Steven. I could probably beat the shit out of a Hazan Piker. Yeah, just name a guy. The only person that I would actually be scared to fight is like Sam Hyde. Ironically enough, since we're going to watch him later. Sam Hyde's the only guy that I'm scared to fight. Everybody else I think I could beat the shit out of. So yeah, you just got to, especially if the fight is less than 2 minutes. but anyways, the whole point is, in my opinion, a fitness routine is not there for you to become a bodybuilder or the next Rock or the next name a fit guy. It's just to be healthy. That's all it is.
Him a little bit. This guy is soft as shit.
AKA Batisui says all Adam told Connor to do was watch more of their content before making strong claims. Yeah, I watched dude, AKA Batisui. I love you. So thank you for being here. But it's funny to me that you're doing the Adam apologia. Adam said, I watched a 5-minute clip where Adam, let me see if I can remember the argument. What Adam said was that Biden was a black box, that because he was so demented, we did not know who was running the country, which was false. We knew who was running the country. It was his cabinet, who are all normie Democrats. Then he said, well, if we're going to give the job to somebody, they at least need to be mentally competent so they're not just being co-opted by a political cabal that's running their cabinet. I understand that argument perfectly. And then what was the other thing? And then he was saying, like, well, in that regard, I think that Trump would be a better option compared to a demented Biden. But this is stupid on a variety of levels. Please tell me any disastrous policy from the Biden years. You can say there's cringe shit, like maybe he was nice to trans people, but the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, these are all things that helped get America out of the post-COVID inflationary period. And the inflationary period, by the way, inflation is caused by a downturn in economic activity and an increase in money supply. Well, what did Trump do? He presided over the greatest downturn in economic activity since the Great Depression, and he printed a fuckload of money, and he made his names go on the check. So while Biden did do stimulus during an economic downturn, which probably did overheat the economy, Trump started it. So all of your criticism, I mean, maybe you have better criticisms of Biden. Maybe he was, molesting kids. I have no fucking idea. Tell me what's wrong with Biden. But Biden was in there for 4 years and there wasn't any major disastrous policy. None that I can think of anyways. So if he had a shadow government, the shadow government was fucking Democrats. It was normie Democrats. So please tell me where Biden is a bigger risk than Trump. That was the first line of argumentation. And then Kamala was so fucking annoying that he didn't want to vote for Kamala. Please tell me how disastrous Kamala would have been. Please point to disastrous policy besides her having a fucking annoying laugh or gun control. I'm serious. Please. I'm all ears. If you got to steel man of the position, I'll listen to it.
Super, super, super soft. Incredibly soft. So me calling out an apparent contradiction, a possible contradiction, one where he could address and say, hey, you owe an explanation to your audience about why you're changing your tune. He took that very personally and blocked me. But I wasn't done. But when it comes down, this is some days later. I believe at this point, Joe Biden had already dropped out. Let me just make sure that's true. Joe Biden dropped out when? Let's see. This is the day before Joe Biden drops out. The day before Joe Biden drops out, I think. I think that's right. I say Adam from the Stitch and Adam show is by his own definition a Trump supporter. 9 months ago on a show with I'm Really Important and Me.
AKA Batisui says they told Carter to watch their content and shut the fuck up if he didn't know what Adam's position was. I watched a 5-minute clip. I re-articulated his position back to him. He said it was a misrepresentation when it wasn't. And then when I went on the show in order to talk to him about it later, he spent 40 minutes fucking self-sweeping before he finally articulated his position. And it was almost identical to what I described. So AKA Batisui, number one, I love you. But I can't believe that you fell for this retarded fucking self-sweep. You want me, and by the way, this is the other fucking retarded thing about it, right? Let's say that I didn't know what Sitch and Adam's perspective was. Let's do Adam Friended Counterpoints top search. Adam Friended Kamala Harris. Let's take a look. So This is 2.5 hours. Kamala Harris advisor confirms unrealized gains tax plan. Well, that's a dumb tax policy. Is Biden alive? Secret Service has destroyed, quits in disgrace. Kamala Harris snakes nomination. Okay. 2 hours and 30 minutes. Talking to Hutch about wokeness, then Hutch tries to talk Adam into voting for Kamala. 3 hours and 35 minutes. So between these things, these are the top searches for Kamala Harris. This is 8.5 hours of content. I want a 2-minute explanation. So you think that the best way, because Adam and I are peers, I don't give a fuck if he fucking big dogs me. I've been streaming since April. I got fucking 160 people in my chat, which I fucking love. Thank you for being here. I fucking love this shit. And my main shit, my fucking Warhammer shit is bigger than him. And he's the worst part of the 50% of his show. Sitch is the better part. S-class is best class. Okay? So you want me to sift through 8.5 hours of content to find a 30-second explanation? Not only is that excuse cringe as fuck, like honestly, that's the dumbest, weakest, lamest fucking excuse ever. Why is that an excuse that you would fall for? Why is go through 8.5 hours of content to find a 2-minute explainer? Why is that a sufficient answer for you? That answer sucks. Anyways.
He took offense to IRI suggesting he would vote for Trump, saying, what is someone who votes for Trump if they're not a Trump supporter? So understand, that's a standard, right? That's a standard that Adam himself laid out in this show.
Ooh, Deus Halcyon, 5 memberships. Ooh. I think I might have already read that one, so I still think we need 4. But Hegemon became a new member as well, so we need 3. 3 more memberships to break 100. Thank you, Deus. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Coffee Maker says, all the instances are why I stopped listening to such an Adam. Adam is a dangerous clown. Well, welcome aboard, Coffee Maker. Hopefully you and I can be friends. Deus Halcyon says, no worries. I don't chat much, but always have the stream on while I work. That's base. Thank you, Deus. I appreciate you. Bud123 says, how many years of working out and drinking protein shakes did it take for you to put on muscle? 7 months. It took 7. So within the first month, I saw results. By 7 months, I would say I built the foundation of what I currently have, and it stayed with me throughout the years. However, yeah, so I would say in order to get in super good shape, you probably need 6 months. But I would say that you're going to see results within 1 month. And then I would say that I've been in a maintenance weightlifting cycle for 2 years. And by the way, like, again, like, I'm not strong. I'm lifting like 25-pound dumbbells. I used to be able to curl like 50s. So now, not with good form, but I could curl them. So I'm actually going super light compared to how I used to. But I'm not trying to prove myself in the gym. I'm not trying to beat some 19-year-old black dude who can bench 400 pounds, even though he's 5'4". I'm never going to beat that guy. I'm just trying to make sure my heart doesn't explode in my chest. And I'm trying to make sure that I have some muscle definition. And I'm trying to make sure that when I pick up my kids, I can pick them up and throw them around and have a good time in roughhouse with my kids. That's all I'm doing. General So says, have the Democrats really won? The only ones who believe Republicans are worse generally are Democrats. Well, that's interesting, General So. So have the Democrats really won? The only ones who believe Republicans are worse generally are Democrats. So, yeah, why am I out of touch with the conservatarians? I'm serious, because like, we have conservatarians in chat. We'll agree 60%, 70%, and then we'll disagree on some random thing. But why? Sorry, not that one. Pictures. Why Adam Friended is wrong. Where is it? Why is this not enough? Right? Why is this not enough? Like General Zoe, I think you're correct. Have Democrats really won? The only ones who believe Republicans are worse generally are Democrats. But why? How can you believe that when these are the facts on the ground? Like, I get it. Kamala Harris is a woman, and I'm a misogynist, so I get it. You know, women bad. And also, she has an annoying laugh. And, you know, Californians with annoying laughs are fucking terrible. But why is a woman with an annoying laugh who would try to do gun control but probably fail, why is that worse than all of this shit? If you have a good answer, I mean, I'm all ears, bro. I am all ears. I don't know why I can't convince more people. Help me. Help me, General So. You're my only hope.
With IRI. Now, I remind you that in July of 2024, he said, I would vote for Trump over Biden. This is his standard now.
Missing information, which I thought was the case with you guys as well, because I said nice things about you guys in the video that I put forward.
You called us Trump supporters.
Okay,
And listen how angry he is in this clip, by the way. Listen to how fucking angry Adam is in this clip at being accused of being a Trump supporter.
I said I think you guys would vote for Trump. I didn't call you Trump supporters. I think
What the hell is that? Hold on. You think we're going to vote for Trump? What is someone who votes for Trump if they're not a Trump supporter?
So by his own definition, right? He took great offense. He took great offense to being called a Trump supporter. Oh, how could you call us a Trump supporter? And IRS said, I think you guys would vote for Trump given the choice. What's someone who would vote for Trump if not a Trump supporter? I present you Exhibit B. I would vote for Trump over Biden currently. What's a Trump voter if not a Trump supporter? So applying his standard, clear standard that he has suggested be used.
Doesn't mean you're currently like some.
Well, I think you're going to vote for Satan, okay? I'm not saying you're a Satan worshiper, but
comparing Trump to Satan.
No, I'm saying if it comes down to Trump versus Biden, based on the rhetoric I've heard, I feel like you guys would cast a ballot for Trump. Now, that being said,
And he was weirdly correct, by the way, because I'm pretty sure Sitch either abstained from voting at the top of the ticket, which, by the way, like that's good enough for me. But I'm also curious why Sitch did that. And then, like, what about Kamala was so repulsive that you could not check the box? For me, it would be gun control. That's why I almost didn't check the stuff. It was gun control. So what policy is Sitch passionate enough about where Kamala was clearly not the lesser of two evils? And then with Adam, you know, an ostensible, independent, liberal kind of guy, why does he still think that Kamala and Trump are comparable? I'm asking earnestly. I'm not even trying to get too pissed off. I'm asking earnestly.
Adam, you've talked to me since and given me additional information, and I would back off that position now.
And IRI was wrong to back off from that position, wasn't he? At the time, he did take that view. That is in July 2024. Ultimately, I forget actually whether, I think he voted for neither Trump or the Democratic candidate, which, again, by his own standard, is the ultimate cop-out, because Adam was the one who said, you got to vote for one of the two. You can't be like Sitch and just sit it out. That was Adam's standard. Trump supporter, Adam, again, by his own definition, is also a huge hypocrite. Something I suggested in my previous post, but I'm now out.
So, AKA Batasui says, at least Connor believes Adam is a left-winger. So the only reason why I believe that Adam is a liberal, though, is because he's not anti-statist. So he's not a libertarian, right? And then he abhors racism to almost like in my opinion, like a comical degree. Like I'm more racist than Adam Friended is, right? Then when it comes to like the gay and the trans stuff, like he's a little bit more, I think like anti-trans than I am. Like I think he's fallen into the, you know, sympathetic. Maybe he's not trans exclusionary radical feminist, but he's more sympathetic to their arguments than I am. And so, weirdly enough, I would actually say we're probably bouncing around in the same political sphere. Like I would actually say that Adam and I and Sitch and I are probably approximately in the same political sphere. But if that's true, and you knew everything that I said about why Trump was bad, why do you vote third party? You know what I'm saying? Why? Why?
Outright asserting. In the same video, Adam states, I'm not voting for Trump ever. Where's the hypocrisy? Circumstances change.
Sacred Snow says, did you see the interview with Andre Romero on Bulwark? No, but we will watch it as a public service eventually. Like probably tomorrow, to be honest.
Right? Keep reading, dear follower.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm about to show you the hypocrisy. So he says, I'm not going to vote for Trump.
Well, there you go. There you go. Andy B, this is something that I would 100% accept. So the only difference is I think Kamala would have done something with the border, would done nothing with the border. Dems only cared about the border when it was going to cost them. So your choice is Trump going crazy or Dems doing nothing. That is something that I could accept. If you're, and by the way, like, I want a secure border. I want every single human being who comes into the United States to be stopped by some kind of government official, regardless of whether or not they're law enforcement. I want the reason why they're in the country to be vetted. I want them to be checked against criminal databases. I want that 100%. And if that was like a huge deal to you, where you were like, border security is my number one issue, that's what I care about, border, then I would 100% accept somebody believing that Trump was going to be an immigration hawk compared to Kamala. That's like one thing. If you were a conservatarian and you were an immigration and gun, if you were an immigration hawk and a gun freak, then I could see how you would view Trump as the lesser of two evils. If you were basically a single issue voter, but with two issues, I could see that. And I wouldn't shit on that too much, because truth be told, I like Ukrainians and black people a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think 14 million Africans should die because of American laziness. And I don't think Ukrainians should get fucked over because Trump's a geopolitical moron. But if I was a two-issue voter and my two issues were border and guns, I could see that. Thank you. Thank you for Andy B. Thank you for bringing that up. That's actually the closest thing to a conservatarian why Kamala sucks more argument that I've heard. So actually, thank you for that. That helped.
I don't think there's any possible world that I can see that I would vote for Trump in the next election.
I'm not voting for Trump ever.
Well, and that's what Adam said, right? Pretty.
West Coast Girl says, if your first impulse when someone mentions corruption of your side is to point to an infinitesimally smaller version of the opposite side, you don't care about corruption either. No, I care about corruption on both sides, West Coast Girl. That's why I bring it up all the fucking time. It's not because I'm trying to sweep for the Republicans. It's because I'm trying to keep Democrats from being fucking cringe. But you guys insist. You insist on being cringe, and you do not listen to me, and you will hurt yourselves.
Pretty suggestive, potentially, of a possible contradiction. What changed? That's a radical shift. I will never vote for Trump.
Melody says, have they reached out to talk to you again? No. Adam just said that I'm not technically banned from the show, so I could technically swing by the show whenever I wanted to.
If the election were today, I would vote for Trump. And you don't owe your audience an explanation, bro? You don't owe your audience to explain, hey, why have I taken this massive shift in opinion? Why is that? We'll ask the chat.
Hold on. No, I don't accept this. Andy B says, one Joe Rogan leg kick and Connor is found down. If I ever get popular enough to hang out with Joe Rogan, I will take a 100% kick from Joe Rogan. I will. I'll take a stomach shot. You know, his like sweet spin kick, his sweet spin back kick. I'll take a stomach shot and I'll take a leg shot. And I'll let him do it, because I have done body hardening. I have done martial arts. I'm not saying that he won't, like, I'm not saying it's not going to hurt. It'll probably hurt and I'll want to go down, but I'll take one. And I think I'll be all right. He's very powerful. I'm not shit talking Joe at all. He's very powerful, but I still think that based off of height, weight, size, I still think I could take 100% Joe Rogan stomach kick and leg kick and still stand up afterwards.
You guys think that in that context, when you go from, I will never, ever vote for Trump to, yeah, right now, if the election were held, I'd vote for Trump. You think that deserves an
sorry for keep interrupting Pisco for flow issues, but I'll stop in a moment. AKA Badasui says, Connor, it's not apologia. It's not straw manning people. Sorry if it comes off that way. No. Like AKA Badasui, I know, I hate to use the term good faith. I know you're good faith. I just like, I don't know, man. I just feel like that's a weak excuse on Adam's part. That's all.
Explanation for your audience of political fans, people who watch you for political content? What do you think? I think it does. I think you actually have an obligation to your audience to like explain a massive shift in opinion. Like even people like Anna Kasparian, right? She had her whole like unaligned Substack post to explain why she's viewing things a little differently, how she's changed her opinion, even on stuff that is not as important, I would argue, on who should lead the country. It's a massive, massive shift. Adam, but not Sitch, now claims that circumstances have changed. All right, so he argues circumstances have changed, that he would justify voting for Trump because of the black box of Joe Biden running the country.
This was the argument that we were talking about earlier.
Essentially, that having Biden be a vessel for unknown forces is extremely dangerous. So this is the explanation that Sitch, the official Adam explanation for why he changed his view on Trump, and why he would justify voting for Trump. Why he would vote for Trump. The official explanation is Joe Biden was a black box.
Bo Dickerson says, remember when the Inflation Reduction Act didn't reduce inflation and the admin just referred to it as the greatest climate change legislation ever passed? No, but, happens.
That with Joe Biden in charge, who knows who's running his cabinet? Who knows who's running his affairs? Now, I would argue that is now even more of a concern under the Trump administration, part 2. But that is his view. You can disagree with it.
Sorry, I keep fucking up the flow because you guys keep saying funny shit while I'm scrolling through. Jay Monoclay says, why black? Why he gotta be black, bro? Cameron Mosley says, because black people have more testosterone than whites. No. Okay, so when I was in Iraq, I went to the gym 6 days a week. I had one, Sunday was my rest day, but every other day I was in the gym and I had to do a pull-up pyramid. Short, strong, black guy. And there was this dude. I'm probably gonna find him. Where is he? Not that short. It was pretty much that build though. I'll go back to it in a second. It was this guy. Okay. This guy was 5'5", maybe. He was like the same height as my wife. My wife is 5'4". I'll probably just go back to that guy because I think that guy genuinely looks like the dude who was in there. And he was like 40 in like 2007, 2008. And so where's that guy? I'm going to find him again. This guy. And so this guy, I'm working my ass off. Okay. I'm at 135 and then I started repping 135. So I added like, I don't know, 10 pound plates to either side. So I'm at like 155 and I'm working my way up to getting 10 reps of 155. So I'm like benching like, I don't know, 6 reps of 155 or something. And I am ripping every muscle in my chest trying to rep 155 10 times. And this ant motherfucker, this 5'4" bitch, and I say bitch because he could whoop the shit out of me, but this 5'4" muscly motherfucker walks into the gym, puts 400 pounds on the fucking bar. So what would that be? It'd be like 45 plate times 2. So that's 90, 180 plus the bar. I forget how much the bar is. If it's 45 pounds, that's 225. So he's got not only does he have that, he has like 4 plates on each side. So it's 45, 90. He has 180 on each side. So that's 360 plus the 45 pound bar. He has 405 pounds on the fucking bar and he reps it. That wasn't his max. That wasn't him doing it one time with bad form. That was, I'm a 6'4", 200 pound motherfucker and I am struggling to bench 155. And this 5'4" black dude walks in and reps 400 pounds for 10 reps like it was fucking nothing. It was infuriating. And I'm pretty sure that's the day. That I stopped competing with other people. I was like, I will never rep 400 pounds. Short dude bench presses 400. Look at this motherfucker. It's so infuriating. Like some of these guys are doing the lightweight, but this is me. This is me in 2007 Iraq. I am fucking furious. I'm staring at this motherfucker repping 400 pounds. Look at this. Look at this. It's this guy. This guy is 154 pounds, 5'4". Look at this. Hold on. Does he rep it? This might be his max. Anyway, all right. I got to leave this before I get pissed off. But the whole point of it is, you see a fucking 5'4" black dude rep 400 pounds, and you're like, all right, I'm not competing with anybody ever again. Fuck this shit.
It could be consistent, right? We'll listen to the clip. It could be consistent, regardless of whether you agree with it. Put that aside. It could be wrong, but consistent. This is the explanation.
Out of line for all these people on Twitter, because I was just saying, look, if it's between Trump and Biden, I'm probably going to vote Trump, right? Because I see the black box is the greater evil to me. And I mean, I laid it out. Some guy was coming at me, and I was like, okay, your position.
Some guy.
Your position is perfectly logical because you do not believe that the black box is a threat. So if that's not a threat, and you're literally voting for a potted plant, if that potted plant has 10% chance to get the policies that you want, and you get 0% chance with Trump to get the policies you want, it's perfectly rational for you to vote for Biden and to make an argument.
Melody says, have we broken to 100 memberships yet? Nope. I think we still have 4 memberships to go. Although there's more donos. Ooh, we got 2 new memberships. So I think we're down to, we got 3 new memberships. So we got Hegemon, Vazaraka, and Vazaraka. 1 more to go. 1 more membership.
Argument to vote for Biden. But I think the greater threat to the stability of the United States is Biden. I think Trump could be a threat as well, because Trump could tear things up going after his political adversaries. Like, he could weaponize the Department of Justice.
He could, or was it a practical certainty? And now what are we seeing?
It could be a big fucking mess. It could be like, there are dangers on that end too. I'm well aware of. Yeah.
So he was well aware of the dangers here. So how he...
Gupper Supper says, I voted Kamala, and I'm an independent that leans heavily right. I just thought that she would do less damage to the country, which isn't a great thing for the 2 future leaders. Bruh, you and I, we are same. We are same. Different, but same.
This is about harm reduction. This is about harm reduction. The reason I would vote for Trump over Biden is harm reduction. And the truth is, Biden is just so much of a black box. So, you don't know what you're going to get out of Biden. You could nuke the whole planet. I mean, I just don't understand what.
Well, hold up. Sorry, I keep interrupting Pisco, which is bad for content flow, but we have people in chat engaging. G Free says, if you don't vote for Kamala in a swing state, you have to admit that you're okay with the destruction of the United States, mass child abduction, and economic spiraling. So at first I thought that was a pro-Trump statement, because they would say, oh, you're for open borders, mass child abductions from ICE, helping people get sex trafficked, and mass economic spiraling, the inflation under the Democrats. I think that's cope, and I think it's stupid, because tariffs is infinitely worse. But I do think that somebody earlier in chat, I forget who it was, but Andy, maybe Andy B, Andy G, something like that. But somebody reminded me of, not just a lot of conservatives view Democrats as open border in practice, if not in policy and name. So yeah. All right, I'm going to glue something together while we're still watching this.
What the reason is to believe that we get nuclear war because of the black box of Biden? I mean, query whether there's any evidence to suggest that that is more likely than with Trump. But that's his explanation, that there's this unknown black box, this deep state, that under Biden, it would be more dangerous because of Biden's senility, because of Biden's state of mind, because of his mental health, that it's too chaotic, too dangerous. And put against the Trump administration, it is more dangerous. This black box is more dangerous than the guy who tried to steal the election, than the guy who deserves to be in prison for decades because of a physical coup, the guy who you said you would never vote for, the guy that incited the mob to do an actual political, physical coup, what you call definitionally a political coup using a mob. That all of that analysis is outweighed by the black box because Biden is too senile, he's too old. Okay? You don't have to agree with it. That could be an explanation that you accept. put aside whether you agree with Adam, you shouldn't. It's an insane opinion for reasons relating to the structure of the government and the military, the obvious visibility of the black box, the press, the history of the executive branch, etc. On board his
or how about a cabinet, dude? That's the other thing that pisses me off about him saying that is like, we know who's running the government. It's his fucking cabinet. That's what bugs the shit out of me about him saying that. It's like, oh, we just don't know who these people are. We don't know what their agenda is. And it's like, dude, it's Biden's fucking cabinet. We know who these people are. They are the people appointed by the executive branch and approved by Congress to run the various executive administrations of the presidency. That's who's in charge. Pretending like we don't know who these fucking people are and it's just some fucking shadowy cabal is total bullshit and cope. God damn it. This somebody told me this was going to happen. I'm using a product called Gloop, which is a plastic cement designed specifically for 3D print jobs. And they said that one of the problems with it is it's almost a two-man job when you're dealing with big parts, because you basically have to put it in place. You have to put the cement in place and put the objects together almost instantaneously, or it dries before you can link the objects together. And that's a problem I'm experiencing right now. But that's okay. I'll give it a shot.
his view. So what I'm saying here is like, this is a stupid belief. Biden's, the people around him are known to the public. The people who are making a lot of these decisions, people like Ron Klain, people like his inner, those three advisors that are very close to him, those are known. Trump gets a great deal of assistance and basically onboards a bunch of views from people who he hires. The fact that the structure of the government is designed, I should argue, to put some.
Yeah, Jared Kushner wasn't even like a representative from the Department of State while he was negotiating the Abraham Accords. He was senior policy advisor. I don't even know if that's like a cabinet position. That might be a position that doesn't even require cabinet approval. It's kind of crazy.
Checks on the president. Now under Trump, those are going away, right? Now everyone seems to be answerable to Trump loyalists like Russell Vought and others who seem to have total control. Stephen Miller, total control over immigration. But we know their names, right? Just like within the Trump administration, we know their names. And so I don't know how much of a black box it is. But except for a moment that it's more scary to have Joe Biden black box than Trump. It is Adam's position that none of his previous opinions regarding Trump have changed. 9 months ago, he wouldn't vote for Trump ever, didn't want a second term. Jan 6 was patently an attempt to overthrow the election, and Trump was responsible. Now,
Andy B says, yes, I didn't vote for either because I'm very pro-life. I hate Trump, but I can't vote for an abortion bill birth policy goal. You know, that Andy B, that's kind of interesting to me, only because I might feel similarly about gun control, where it's like, if I was responsible, I'm just going to share this because I think a lot of people don't understand the moral intuitions. So the reason why I voted for Kamala was because I thought it was a lesser of two evils. And I thought that it was very unlikely that she was going to be able to get like substantive gun control that I would care about, like an assault weapons ban. I didn't think that she would be able to get a national assault weapons ban passed. I just didn't think that it was likely, right? But if I claim the title Never Trump Republican, and if I claimed conservative and conservatarian instincts, and if she got a national assault weapons ban through, I would expect to be getting my shit kicked in for like decades to come. Like, even with 14 million dead Africans, even with thousands of dead Ukrainians, even with the tariff nonsense, if she gets that one bill passed and I am partially responsible through my vote, I would expect every Republican to give me shit for the remainder of my political commentary career. And that's a big ask. Like I know you're saying that you're just an individual citizen who just cares about one policy, but especially when you're a political commentator, you're not just asking someone to, just cast a vote and do a lesser of two evils analysis. You're asking them to take shit from members of the public for your decisions for the rest of your existence. And so while I think Adam is being kind of pusillanimous in reference to this specific drama, I understand the fear. I understand the anxiety. And General So says, have you seen his kicks? Oh, yeah, I've seen his kicks. He's got good kicks. That was not, oh, I'm so tough, or oh, Joe Rogan is such a wussy. It's me saying, I think I'm tough enough because I've known people who have the same oomph, and I've taken hits from them before. You still feel like you're going to die. When you take like a liver shot or a stomach shot from somebody like Joe Rogan, even if you don't go down, you get the wind knocked out of you and you feel like you're going to throw up. And then same thing with the kicks. When somebody kicks you in your like your nerve that runs along the side of your thigh, it feels like your leg is on the verge of like snapping in half, and somebody just took like a sledgehammer and beat the muscle between your thigh and your bone. Like, it's going to be bruised the next day for sure. So I'm not calling Joe Rogan a pussy at all. I'm really not.
When asked by Sitch if Biden drops out and another candidate like Harris, Whitmer, or Newsom entered, would you vote for any of them or all of them over Trump? No more black box. Adam's answer is he'd be undecided, would have to see her perform.
We'll see what happens. This is getting good.
What if Biden drops out? Is there anyone that you, if it was just anyone, you know, it could be Kamala, it could be, you know, Whitmer, Westmore, any of these people that get or Gavin Newsom, any of these people that get like named as potentials, would you vote for any of them, all of them, instead of Trump?
I'm an undecided voter. Like, I would contemplate voting for Kamala over Trump. I would have to see her perform. God, that's so painful, because now it's.
I'm going to get to a Adam Friended talking point that I feel like Pisco misunderstands. I'm actually going to defend Adam Friended's perspective. And then I think we'll switch over to the dissident right-wing content after that. Now, I appreciate you. I parasocially love you. We've been at 150 all day. Like the stream, share it with your friends, become a member if you haven't done so already. We're hovering around 100 memberships. Super chats if you got it. I parasocially love you, and thank you for being here. I think I saw another donation come through. So Tallybots gifted a membership, putting us at 100 memberships. I am 90% sure that we just broke 100 thanks to Tallybots. So thank you kindly. I'm sure Philip will be ecstatic. Thank you for your donations. And thank you for being here. Thank you for flying Counterpoints Airlines. We know that you have a ton of morning streamers from whom to choose. And thank you for choosing Counterpoints.
Completely like a different lesser of two evil scenario, because I feel physical revulsion at look, and Trump, at least I think Trump is funny. I think Trump, you know, is potential. Trump is dangerous in that he wants it so bad he's willing to do anything. Like, obviously January 6th is the avatar of that.
He's Stannis, so he wants it so bad he never had principles, so I guess he's not Stannis. Never mind.
Well, this is bad comparison. I mean, this is helpful if he's advocating for something I want, right? Universal healthcare. God, what I would love for Trump.
Sure, but he's not going.
Can you imagine a couple things to note from here? One, let's take the main thing first. So we've now invented a hypothetical, which later out turned to be the case, where ultimately Adam didn't vote for Kamala or Trump. Apparently, you know, you can correct me on that. I think that's his position, but assume that that's the position. I don't think he voted for Kamala. Let's just say about that. But we've made a hypothetical where we have isolated for the black box. So the black box is no longer around, right? There's no more black box. Put the black box to the side. And now what
this is where I need to defend. I need to criticize Adam, and then I need to defend him.
We have is name your Democrat versus Trump. Trump, who you said you would never vote for.
Sorry. Now I need to defend some people in chat as well. All right, hold up. I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit because I also need to jump into chat because you guys are being crazy. So, number one, black box is gone. So we're not worried about a Democratic cabinet running a shadow government behind a senile president. That's gone. Biden has dropped out. So now we're talking about Trump versus whatever. The reason why so many people were so critical of Adam during this time frame is that it is so obvious that even before we knew that the USAID cuts were going to prove lethal for potentially millions of people, we knew that Trump had tried to usurp the government entirely. We knew that Adam knew that. We knew that the false elector scheme had already been exposed to the public. We knew that he had already done the crazy January 6th shit. We had the 2022 tweet where Trump was saying that with the reveal of the fraudulent elections, do you throw out the entire election and do you throw out the laws up to and including the Constitution because the founding fathers wouldn't support false and fraudulent elections? So you have him being a dictatorial fucking freak, right? So we have all that shit. We know that he's going to fuck over Ukraine. We know he's going to fuck over the international community. So at this point, what's your hang up? And fucking Adam's hang up is that Kamala is repulsive. Why? Because she has an annoying laugh? Because she's a Californian? Because she's fake? Trump has a variety of personality attributes that are infinitely worse than that. So what's your real reason? What's your substantive policy reason? And that's where the difficulty in articulating the substantive policy basis for why Kamala was not the lesser of two evils is why Adam caught so much shit. Because he went from, I could never vote for Trump to, maybe. And that's why I and Pisco and plenty of liberals were like, you're being a fucking pussy. You're audience captured. You can't go from Trump is ineligible to office to, well, you know, I could see how I could vote for Trump because Kamala's fucking annoying. That's not a good perspective. That's not good political analysis.
For whom you would never vote. Trump, who tried to do a physical coup, all the things I've already said. And we've taken out this reason why you would vote for Trump over Biden, in that we've substituted someone in for Biden. And what is Adam's response? Oh, I'd have to see. You know, I get physical revulsion from Kamala Harris. Why?
Her laugh is annoying and she's a woman. I agree with Adam Friended. I just don't think that having an annoying laugh and being a woman is worse than killing 14 million people through incompetence.
You get physical revulsion from her? You want to explain why you don't get physical revulsion from Trump? And he says, at least Trump is funny. Oh, granted, Trump is funny.
Oh, sorry. I need to defend Andy B real quick. You guys are like, nobody is supporting the abortion stuff up to term. Well, right. But then like Hillary Clinton will say the crazy shit, which by the way is like legalistically true, that a fetus doesn't have the protections of a human being until it's born. That's something that she said during an interview. Now, she was thinking with her lawyer brain, and it's descriptively true. However, what every conservative hears that sentence as is that women should have the right to abort their fetus and treat it as a non-human entity until it is born. That's what every conservative, including I, heard was like, oh, you're making a legalistic argument, but your legalistic argument implies a moral analysis that is so inhuman and so lizard-brained that you're effectively a fucking sociopath. And I do think that Hillary Clinton is a sociopath for different reasons besides her abortion takes. And then also the whole shout your abortion movement, I get it. It's a bunch of fucking like cringe freak feminists on the internet writing Medium articles. It's not the, it's not the mainstream Democratic position that you should be proud of your abortion. But Lena Dunham, as an example, who's an acclaimed like writer, producer, director of the movie or TV show Girls, which is supposed to be like a really modern take, she said that a pro-abortion culture had been so extreme in her progressive circles that she felt like she wasn't a real feminist because she never had an abortion. So that's like psycho shit. Okay, that's straight up psycho shit. And I think one of the problems with liberals, especially like you guys in my fucking chat who keep sweeping for Hunter, just say it's bad, dude. Nobody is forcing you to defend Lena Dunham. Nobody is forcing you to defend the shout your abortion people. Nobody is forcing you to defend Hillary Clinton when she says like, oh yeah, legalistically you should be able to fetuses even that are like on the verge of being born, they're not people, therefore you don't have to treat them as people. You don't have to defend that. You can just go like, yeah, that's kind of cringe. Maybe she misspoke. Maybe she's not doing a moral analysis. Maybe she's doing a legal analysis. I don't know. I think I would phrase that a different way. But you guys always like jump to the whataboutism where you're like, well, Republicans are worse. Republicans are worse. Republicans have six-week abortion bans. Dude, just admit something's cringe. Just admit something's bad. It's really not hard. It seems to be something that isn't just like descriptively true with liberals, that they can't take a fucking L in general. They can't admit when they're taking an L. They can't admit when one of their allies has taken a fucking L. Just take the fucking L, bro. It's not that big of a deal. We all take L's.
But now we're not even talking about existential threats to the country. If it were enough that Trump were funny for you to vote for him, then you wouldn't have said, I'll never vote for Trump. Because guess what? Trump was funny in 2024. He was funny in 2020. He was funny. Like, he's been the same guy. He's been the same.
Andy B has the exact argument. I was going to ignore this. Gen X says that elective abortions after 16 weeks almost never happen. Andy B says, okay, if it almost never happens, then why wouldn't you support banning it? So yeah, elective abortion should be banned after 18 weeks, 100%. And whenever you have like, oh, it's statistically small, well, then it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Murders are statistically small. We still legally prohibit murder. And from my view, and probably Andy B's view, if you abort a healthy fetus after 18 weeks, he might even have a more extreme position than I do. But to me, if you abort a fetus after 18 weeks, after the central nervous system develops and it has the capacity for pain, I think you're committing infanticide. I really do. Like if you have an elective abortion after 18 weeks, I think you're committing infanticide, which is one of the most egregious. Yeah, you could call it a sin. You could call it a crime. Call it whatever the fuck you want. I think it's one of the worst things you could do is to knowingly kill a child. So yeah, like you can see it differently, but just try for 10 seconds to see it from my perspective. If not a lot of people statistically participate in what I view as infanticide, then ban it. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Same exact guy in that sense. And so if it were just a matter of, oh, who's funnier, who has the better memes, who has the better vibes, why wasn't that dispositive when you were saying you'd never vote for Trump back in the day? Unless you've changed your mind. Unless you've changed your mind on the existential nature of the threat of Trump. But you say you haven't. You say he could still fuck with the DOJ and it would be really, really, really bad. And you're like, well, he might be changing. And listen how much of a dipshit this guy is. Trump might advocate for universal health care. Everyone take a second.
So I feel like this is a misrepresentation of Adam's argument, and I'm going to try to steelman it, even if I have to eat crow on it later. I don't think that Adam Friended thinks that Trump supports universal health care. I think that he's saying that if Trump took his passion, the same thing that allowed him to do January 6th, the same thing that makes him such a boisterous political figure, and he took that passion and he channeled it into a policy that Adam cared about, like universal health care, then he would view that zealotry as a good thing. I think Pisco repeats that Adam Friended incorrectly believes that Trump is pro-universal health care. I don't think that was Adam's point. I think Adam was making the point that if Trump was as zealous about good policy as he was about bad policy, he would be a good president. But, you know, if a duck was a sandwich, then I would eat one every day. You know what I'm saying? Like you're taking variables that do matter and you're confusing them and then pretending that like somehow you've made it better. I hope that sentence was in English. It barely made sense to me, so I hope it almost makes sense to you.
Can you imagine? Oh, sorry. I just really. Imagine how stupid you would have to be Adam Friended and be like, huh, Trump might give us universal health care.
Tallybots. Tallybots gifted us 1 membership, which I think put us over 100. So thank you, Tally. I appreciate you.
Sorry. Holy shit. Don't worry. Yeah, that's definitely coming in the next 2 years. We're definitely going to get universal health care. This guy is a total dipshit. And now he starts to invent things. He's desperate, right? Because he doesn't have any humility, actually. He doesn't have any sense of like principle, like, yeah, this was the argument I gave about, a few days ago that there's this black box. And so any generic Democrat, I guess I would prefer, now it's like these, his vibes about being funny, the physical revulsion of Kamala. So I'd have to, so that's now part of the analysis. Didn't seem like it was important before. Physical revulsion plus lunacy that Trump would provide or cares about universal health care. And then this issue of like, I have to see how she performs. What more do you have to see? What more do you have to see?
So
then ultimately, as I think is the case, you guys can confirm.
We're probably going to be wrapping up momentarily, but this is one of the things that I actually think is the weakest part of Pisco's presentation. I don't think anybody who talks to Pisco for prolonged periods thinks that he's stupid. Pisco is not a stupid man. And I think that most people understand that Pisco has a decent legal analytical mind. While I have disagreed with him multiple times about his legal analysis, he'll typically still be able to articulate why he sees the world the way he sees it. Pisco is not a stupid man. And so my frustration here is that while I actually really do agree with Pisco's analysis of Adam Friended kind of being duplicitous and weak in reference to his logic for why he would abstain from voting for Kamala, or why he would potentially support Trump over Biden, or support Trump over another Democratic candidate, I also think that Pisco is, laughing and dunking on a point that's not being made because he's not making the effort to go a little bit further to understand his opponent. And I think that while this will probably play well in a liberal hug box of people who already agree with Pisco, I think that outside of the liberal hug box within the conservative and conservatarian circles, this appears like bad faith. Like Pisco could be genuinely confused and think that Adam Friended thinks that Trump is advocating for universal health care. However, I think anybody within Sitch and Adam's audience, they're actually just going to view this as bad faith. They're not going to view this as Pisco misunderstanding. They're going to view it as Pisco does understand and just wants to portray Adam as never having any kind of ideas that are redeemable. And so, so that would be my advice to Pisco, and it is my advice to Pisco, is you need to go out of your way in politics to represent your opponent's perspective in the strongest possible view. So I'm going to watch a little bit more, and then we're probably going to wrap, and then we're going to move into Sam Hyde versus Nick.
We'll finish reading the tweets. This is hypocrisy, plain and simple. His previous condemnations are feathers in the wind, easily overcome by Trump simply endorsing a policy position, fake policy position, or by...
sorry. G Free says, one of your stupid low IQ chatters thinks pro-choice means any abortions, anytime, any reason, even if the baby is kicking. Well, there's people who make that from a moral argument. And so, yeah, like typically pro-choice just means like abortions available to women who are able to make their health decisions. And sometimes they will accept limitation. G-Free, I will agree that the vast majority of pro-choice people are not for elective abortions up to 9 months. But that doesn't even mean that that isn't necessarily like a representation of some parts of the view. Like, so for instance, does California prohibit elective abortion after a certain time period? I'm pretty sure Colorado and California actually don't prohibit it. In California, elective abortions are generally prohibited after fetal viability, typically around 24 weeks of pregnancy. However, exceptions exist for situations where pregnancy threatens life or whatever. So for this is okay. But for me, and for a lot of people who are more conservative on abortion, this is about 6 weeks too late. So that's kind of fucked up. And then does Colorado, I think Colorado passed a weird law, prohibit elective abortion after a certain amount of time? No, Colorado does not prohibit elective abortions after a certain point in pregnancy. Colorado law protects the right to abortion throughout all stages of pregnancy, according to Wikipedia and other sources. There are no gestational limits on abortion in the state. While some states have gestational limits, Colorado is not one of them. However, there are some requirements such as parental involvement for minors seeking abortions, but a judicial bypass is available if parents' notifications is not an option. Additionally, while abortions at later stages are legal, they are less common and may require more complex medical procedures. So yeah, so G-Free, you're saying that so what is this? The AI summary is saying that it's not real. And then I don't know if this bill was introduced, but it was never passed. So there, Colorado, somebody in the Colorado legislature tried to introduce, and it lost. So Colorado, you can say like, all the pro-choice people are never the stereotype of fucking freaks who want elective abortion up to the day of birth. But Colorado is actually just that. Colorado is the straw man that pro-life people, say it is. And California is almost that. It's like 6 weeks. 6 weeks further than any than I would want. And I'm probably like an abortion centrist. But anyways, I'm gonna get some water. I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll be right back. We'll let Pisco wrap it up for us a little bit, and then we'll wrap the segment. Be right back. Like the stream, share it with your friends. If you have a good time, come back tomorrow. Super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them.
His quote physical revulsion of Kamala Harris. Conveniently, now there's a different lesser of two evils argument. Stitch doesn't really push hard on this belief during the stream. He doesn't because he knows deep down the alpha truth. This question to Adam was a layup, which Adam bungled when he refused to say he'd definitely vote for another Democrat. It contradicts everything Adam previously said. And that is ultimately the truth of it. The truth of it is Adam was caught. Adam was wrong. And Adam couldn't fess up to it, that he was wrong to say, it was this black box thing. What he wanted, for whatever reason, either because of pride or because of audience capture, I don't know which of it is, or because he's too stupid. Neither of the options here, of the three options, are good for Adam. He's either stupid enough to believe Trump, I guess, that he's had this shift on healthcare, or he has too much of an ego to admit when he was wrong and called the hell out, or he's captured by his audience and he can't ever say I'll vote for a Democrat when Trump is on the ballot. And he's continually seething about this moment. We brought up previously the Econoboy debate, where Econoboy brings this up and is like, knowing what you know now, why don't I actually get this? Because I think this is when he said it. Let's actually get a confirmation. We'll get a confirmation of what he said here. Because he said something. I think he didn't vote for either. So let's actually just confirm that. 1 second, guys.
Production. And to your second point, information, Yeah. We're gonna start soon, though, guys.
Oh, they were like,
yeah.
1 sec.
Okay, so I guess to start then, I just want to say that goes both ways, because I listened to a little of your Little Learn live stream, and you guys just have a mad stereotype of us that is
Let's break this part down because it's important.
completely incorrect. So
What did I say about
you don't know much about us. Well, you have this stereotype that we are like centrist and that we're neutral and we're just trying to call balls and strikes and we're just trying to be fair with both sides, which is completely ridiculous. We've never said that.
We're not trying to be fair. We're not trying to call balls and strikes. Okay, why?
We would never do that. We judge things on a...
Yeah, that's not even an indictment. This is one of the things that actually is kind of annoying. What if you were an independent and you weren't evaluating policy and people accused you of trying to rig a, like I get that it's like a centrist stereotype to be on the fence all the time, but calling balls and strikes is not a insult unless you allow it to be. Calling balls and strikes means that you're a referee trying to call balls and strikes as best you can. The reason why centrists get hit with that is because they feel like in order to be fair to both teams, the Republicans are cheating, they're stealing bases, they're intimidating referees, they're doing all this crazy shit. And then, you know, the Democrats throw like a curveball that's like on the corner of the box. And in order to be fair to the Republicans, you call a curveball on the corner of the box a ball when it's really a strike because you want to be fair. That's the analogy.
Like per policy basis, and we take sides on everything constantly. So,
Okay, so you think that the whole we take sides on things constantly, that undermines the notion that we think that you guys are trying to be these kind of enlightened neutral people? I don't know how that contradicts it. You can take sides, and that's not inconsistent with our vision of you.
Yeah,
we're not saying that you like are halfway on every single issue. It's that generally that's your attitude. That your attitude is one of like an enlightened centrist, enlightened neutral. Not that you like pick apart every single issue, and then on every single issue you.
G Free says Kamala wouldn't push such gun policy anyway. She was tweeting about it 30 days before the election. If you want center right people like me who think that MAGA is slowly destroying the country, and we are like 2-issue voters, and one of those issues is guns, Democrats just need to shut the fuck up about guns. Just shut the fuck up about it. Sabri Keller says, I mean, considering their definition of a person, the time of fertilization, twins are legally one person. Trump legalized twincest, and he doesn't even know it. Jesus.
Go the middle of the road approach.
I mean, we're not neutral.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I know that the conflict you had with mostly with the other Live and Learners on the show.
Okay, hold on. This is why I wanted to address this. If you're not neutral, then how do you not recognize Kamala as a lesser of two evils? Right? Please explain it to me like I'm 4 or a golden retriever.
This was like several months ago, so I don't really remember the full context. It had something to do with like who's a greater threat to the country or something like that.
No, they wanted to strong arm us into voting for Kamala Harris, and it just
Who wanted to strong arm?
I did. Okay. Pisco and the Live and Learn guys can admit they can say like, oh, we weren't really trying to do that. We were just looking for consistency. We're trying to minimize our thing. No, I wanted one of the biggest centrist shows that came after, and I know they're small beans, whatever, but I wanted one of the biggest centrist shows to own their bullshit. And this is actually the perfect place to summarize. Okay. They know that Trump waffled on COVID, and that probably led to excess deaths. They know that Trump, the way that I found out about Adam was talking about MMT. He described to me and inspired a conversation with another MMT creator. He described to me about how if you pump cash into the economy, but there's a correlated economic event like the building of some infrastructure, oftentimes that won't be inflationary because of the nature of the project built. And he and the other MMT person pointed out to me the correlation between economic events and money and how that affects inflation. So I already know that he knows that Trump's action during COVID were very likely what caused the inflation during the Biden term. Then I know that he knows about January 6th. Then I know that he knows about the 2022 tweet. Then I know that he knows about Kamala and Biden compared to Trump because we lived through the same time period. So I want you to stop being a fucking pussy. And I either want you to say Kamala is definitively the lesser of two evils, or I want you to explain I want you to cope and seethe. So yeah, Adam was right. I was trying to bully him into owning his bullshit. You are right. That's what I was trying to do. 100%.
Arm us into voting for Kamala Harris. That's what he takes this entire tweet thing to be, is strong arming you into voting for Kamala Harris. How about just asking
That's what I did.
For an explanation? But he took it so personal. Like, can you imagine, by the way, like if someone tried to strong arm you into voting for Trump, if you're one of these, like, you lib audiences, what would your reaction to that be? Would you ever be like moved just because, I don't know, I'm bullying you? Is this me bullying him? Isn't he like a 50-year-old man?
I'm bullying him, and I'm a 40-year-old man.
Trying to strong arm, dude. You vote for whoever you want. I guess that's your right.
It's your right, but I'm going to bully you for your opinions. Pisco is being more liberal than I am right now.
We were just trying to show your hypocrisy. That's what we were trying to do.
Mr. October says center moderate lineup. Early mornings with Connor, late mornings with Hutch, and afternoons with Destiny. Evenings are open for a fourth. Nice. Nice.
I do.
Crash and burn. So, and they're still very upset about it.
I mean, wait, hold on.
They're very upset about it. You brought it up, bro.
Before we get into the socialism thing, I mean, we don't even have a discussion. I'm just curious what your answer is. Like, do you think it's clear that it was the correct thing to vote for Kamala Harris, at least in hindsight?
I think it was the correct. Well, first of all, I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. And I didn't vote for Trump.
So there we go. Confirmation. So he didn't vote for Kamala Harris or Trump. What happened to this existential conflict? What happened to this harm reduction rationale? Oh, yeah, you have to vote for one of them, right? That was Adam's position. But now he takes this middle of the road approach.
This is happening, says letting the government make life and death medical decisions is authoritarian garbage. Stop it. If you're talking to me, this is happening, that is very silly. We let the government make moral and ethical judgments that cause thriving and death all the time. Why would we somehow prohibit them from making life or death decisions in reference to abortion? Why would we single out this one purview of like the medical establishment to receive no scrutiny and no legalistic judgment? That makes no sense to me.
I didn't vote for either. I thought that was contrary to what you said we should do, Adam. At some point, I'm going to get that clip so we can actually do before and after, and there'll be an actual explicit contradiction. There already is one where he says you got to vote for one of them, Democrat or Republican. And now the position he ultimately took, which is I didn't vote for either. Even though for harm reduction purposes, he was willing to vote for Trump, why wouldn't he take that approach and vote for Kamala? Maybe it was because of the
Kay says, access to late-term abortion saved my son's life and allowed me to continue a risky pregnancy. It's a much more nuanced issue than it's often made out to be. Well, okay, I'll say that there should be exemptions for obviously like health of the mother, health of the fetus, etc. Like I'm not for birthing Tay-Sachs babies, right? So there's this random genetic disease called Tay-Sachs. I think it's quite horrible. And effectively, like the baby is so malformed that they will only live for like weeks or months, and those weeks or months will be in agony. I'm not for delivering a fetus that is born exclusively to suffer for weeks or months and then die. West Coast Girl says, we do say it's bad, Connor. You literally just scroll by the in-depth arguments. Well, listen, there's a fucking a lot of you, okay? Listen, we peaked at 150 today. There's 130 people still here. It's hard to read everything. Tallybot says, I grew very resentful during the election season being told that all women need to prioritize abortion above every other political and cultural issue. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. Okay.
Physical revulsion that he felt. The physical revulsion of Kamala Harris, which, you know, I don't understand. Physical, maybe you just hate women, maybe you hate black people, maybe you don't like her laugh or something. Like, were you guys physically revolted at Kamala Harris? Did you even have that like strong of opinion that she like you couldn't look at her or something? I honestly want to know like what that meant. Physically repulsed. You're calling her like ugly?
That I wasn't gonna vote for Trump because if Trump lost, and I actually thought Kamala Harris was going to win. You can watch our live stream from that night. We actually had Anna Kasparian on to talk about the election a little bit before any of it happened. So, but I thought.
Yeah, Fashion 40 says, Connor, y'all Republicans are having a hard time doing the same just because you admit your L's, the rest of the right-wing media sphere doesn't. Yeah, and I think they're bad for that. I think they make the world and they make politics worse for not admitting their L's. I think that actually a substantive part of the problem with the Trump administration is normal, insane people sweeping for Trump's mistakes, gaffes, and stupidity. The world is a worse place for the right wing not calling out its faults.
I didn't want to vote for Trump because I thought if Trump lost, he was going to be a sore loser and he was going to pretend he won and it was going to be this huge catastrophe for the country. And I didn't want to say, oh, yeah, I voted for him. So I didn't vote for the top of the ticket. But I'm not sure Kamala Harris would be anybody.
So that's what Adam is at. That's what his position is now. That he says, you know, I didn't vote for the top of the ticket because.
Fuck that. Call it a sin, Connor, but it's between them and God and not the government. Most people don't do it anyways. It's some tiny percentage. But if we ban it, we can't also cut healthcare and food stamps. Okay. Don't cut healthcare and food stamps and don't destroy a viable fetus past 18 weeks. Yeah. And it's not between them and God. Nope. I fundamentally fucking reject this. I reject that you get to commit infanticide off of some vague liberal principle. Fuck that. Fuck that. No. Nope. Nope. You don't get to have sex, which carries with it the risk of pregnancy, get pregnant, carry a fertilized egg inside you for 18 weeks, not know that you're pregnant, then find out that you're pregnant because you're fucking lazy and you're not tracking your cycle and you're not fucking taking tests while having some random electronic thing going off right now. Oh, it's a spam call. Okay. No, you don't get to carry around a fucking fetus for 18 weeks, find out you're pregnant, then go, meh, fetus is healthy. I'm healthy. Fuck it. I don't want a kid. Nope. Legally prohibited. Fuck that. If you want an abortion, have it before 18 weeks. I'll still think you're an asshole, but that's okay. You know, you can be an asshole. And if you have an elective abortion after 18 weeks, I kind of think if you're a dick. Like, not only you're a dick, you should be legally prohibited from doing so if you have a healthy pregnancy and if the kid is viable. That kid can feel pain. It's no longer just a clump of cells. It is a being that will be human, that has sense perception. So no, and fuck that.
I didn't want to be. Look, that's where his mind instantly goes, right? So just know.
Jovan, sorry, you guys are fucking triggering the shit out of me. The reason you don't ban late-term abortion because they barely happen and almost always are for life of the mother, so you just put women in danger. No. Make a life of the mother exception, Jovan. But you still prohibit infanticide. Saying that we elective abortions after 18 weeks is statistically rare, so we shouldn't legally prohibit them. Well, why don't I just apply the same logic to murder? Murder is statistically rare. It's 5 per 100,000 people. You have an infinitesimally small chance of being murdered. And let's face it, most murders are over just like gangs over disputed drug territory and drug deals. Right. And it's they're also domestic violence. Right. So, you know, domestic violence that happens in the home. It's a private affair. Why is the state having anything to do with something that's within the home? Because it's fucking murder, dummies. It's fucking murder. And I view abortions, elective abortions after 18 weeks, where the fetus is capable of feeling pain, to me, it's identical to infanticide. It's infanticide. You can throw around whatever statistics and flowery language you want to do. If it's a viable human and you kill it after 18 weeks, you're committing infanticide.
Notice what matters to him. So notice why he decides not to vote top of the ticket. This is why he chooses not to vote for the ticket.
If it happens, win. I didn't vote for Kamala Harris and I didn't vote for Trump. I said I wasn't going to vote for Trump because if Trump lost, and I actually thought Kamala Harris was going to win. You can watch our live stream from that night. We had Annika Sperry on to talk about the election a little bit before any of it happened. So, but I thought, I didn't want to vote for Trump because I thought if Trump lost, he was going to be a sore loser and he was going to pretend he won and it was going to be this huge catastrophe for the country. And I didn't want to say, oh yeah, I voted for him. So I didn't vote for the top of the ticket. But I'm not sure Kamala Harris would be any better than Trump.
So you didn't vote for Trump. You didn't vote for Trump because you think if Trump lost, he would have tried to claim that he won.
Zero Fuck says this gay hypocrisy hunting Pisco is doing. Adam said XYZ and now he says not XYZ is why people with this brand of tism fail. Dev was right from the center rightward. Hypocrisy isn't that big of a deal. Bruh. You know that's bad, right? You know being a hypocrite is bad, right? Zero Fucks? It's bad to say one thing and do another. Yes? Yes?
And you didn't want to be a party to that. Make that fucking make sense, right? So
I can make it make sense, and I'm not going to spend a substantive amount of time on it. So the way that it makes sense is you don't want to be party to, and by the way, this is like for the voters who, this is for the voters like me who would want to keep your hands clean. Like in reference to Obama, it was like 2012, and I was at a house party. And this was before I was with my wife. And an attractive Pocahontas was grilling me on why I didn't vote in the election. And I asked her like 3 or 4 policy questions, and she didn't have a fucking clue about any of the thing I was talking about. And I was like, that's why I didn't vote. The reason why I didn't vote was because I knew that there were a series of endlessly complex things that the federal government does and is capable of doing. And I didn't want to be morally responsible or complicit in their actions if I thought what they were going to do is evil. And so I didn't want to make the lesser of two evils calculation in 2012. I knew I was too ignorant to do so, and so I didn't vote in 2012. Now, I think since 16 I've largely voted. And I think I left the top of the ticket blank in 16. I think I might have left the top of the ticket blank in 20. And then I voted for Kamala in 24. So, you know, now I'm more comfortable with lesser of two evils because the truth is it is a binary choice. But I still understand people who don't want to be morally complicit in the bad actions of the federal government, and therefore they vote for things they actually care about, and they leave the top of the ticket blank, or they do a protest vote. I actually understand that because I did that probably for a decade of my life. But anyways, in summary, I think that these Pisco going over all these details was why I had frustrations with Adam Friended. I think that if you're going to be a political commentator, you just need to own your shit. I think that even as recently as within the past 2 weeks, Adam Friended said that he didn't know if Kamala would be worse than Trump. And effectively, I brought up that list multiple times of all the bad shit that Trump's done. And in order for me to even talk to Adam Friended, which by the way, like we don't have to, we can just keep creating in the space. We don't have to collaborate in the future. But if we're gonna have a conversation again, he needs to address that. He needs to address why 14 million dead from USAID cuts projected over the next 5 years is acceptable. He needs to explain how fucking over Ukraine and thousands of innocent civilians getting killed is acceptable. He needs to explain how tariffs fucking the economy is acceptable. He needs to explain how the price shocks that we're probably going to experience from construction and agricultural deportations isn't a problem. He's going to have to explain how sweeping for a pedophile ring isn't a problem, and that our president might currently be a pedophile. He's going to have to say why he doesn't care about that. He's going to have to explain how Andre Hernandez Romero and Kilmar Abrego Garcia getting deported to Sakot without due process and then getting tortured by Central American prison guards, even if they're not American citizens. He's going to have to explain how, as a liberal, he's okay with deporting immigrants without due process to gulags where they're then tortured and sexually humiliated. End of rant. So, anyways, I personally love you. Go enjoy your day. Have a great one. Bye for now.